welcome to the one and only Team 2.
G'day guys, how are we doing? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, August the 24th, 2026. Excuse me, should have done that before I come on air. Sorry about that. Great to have you all along. Big show tonight. We're going to preview the big Nikita Tszyu and Ben Marnie fight this week. We've got a special guest, not Ben Marnie, he's not coming on. Peter Bedell is coming on. Peter was from Code Sports. He is the one of the main boxing writers here in Australia. You would have seen him not a couple of weeks ago. When was it? About a month ago, I think it was. And he'll be behind the microphone on Wednesday night with all the action. So he's going to go over the card with me and give us a little bit of the lowdown on what's happening fight week up in Queensland on the Gold Coast and whatever else we have time to talk about tonight. So as always, guys, if you're new to the show, put your comments in the chat. It's your show. You determine what direction we go. And also a special shout out to everyone that listens on Spotify after the fact. So got a few comments in the comments or the chat section tonight, if I can spit that out. And we'll try and get through as many as we can in about the next sort of 10 or 12 minutes. Peter's going to be on at about 7:15. So we'll get through as many as we can, and I'll go back to the comments after Pete's gone. So let's get into it. We'll get through as much as we can before Pete comes on. All right, we'll start with Asbot. What do you got there, mate? Huge Nikita fan, but I've got to say you got to say it. The constant irritation and sarcasm towards reporters is starting to wear a bit thin. Understand fighters getting sick of questions, but it's a job, mate. Yeah, well, I did say that. I might ask Pete about that as well today or tonight at the press conference. And Pete, I'm sure will have a little bit more to say. He was there, obviously. And Ben Damon, I think Ben Damon got a little bit of a surprise because I think Ben's used to just sort of, he's got as a lot of the commentators do in the interviewers, they just sort of roll out the standard questions, the straight bat type of questions. And Nikita with a bit of sass coming back at, or maybe it wasn't sass, but it was definitely a little bit of sarcasm. And if you didn't see it, he said, are you confident? And Nikita said, no, I'm not confident. Look, you might see it the way Asbot does there with not appreciating the sarcasm. Others found it a bit funny. I was a little bit in between. Look, it was a question I was going to ask tomorrow, actually, on Walking Boxing as well, when I went over the press conferences. What do you guys think? And I'm sure you'll let me know tonight. But, yeah, I don't know. Look, what you got to remember also, guys, is that this close to the fight, Nikita would be, and I know what you're saying there, Asbot, by the way, it's part of the job, I get it, but he would be, as Ben Marnie would as well, just a little bit tired of the interviews, tired of fronting up every day for some type of event. He knows tomorrow he's going to have to cut weight, or cut weight today, actually, because of weigh-ins tomorrow. So he would have known after this press conference, it would have been straight to the gym to start training and getting that last bit of the weight off. And then you'll probably get up in the morning again and do a little bit more as well. And you can probably see or understand that he's not really in the mood to answer these type of questions. Now, you're right. It's his job. I get it. But you just got to put yourself into his shoes. Now, just imagine, just hypothetically, you're hungry, you're thirsty, you're a private type of guy, you're sick of the attention, you're sick of having a microphone in your face, you just want to get in there and fight. There's a lot of pressure. You're been away from your family and you just want to drink. You got to work out for a couple of hours afterwards. You're a little bit irritated. Just put yourself in that position. I actually thought he was okay. Yes, maybe a little bit sarcastic and whatever, but yeah, I wasn't too stressed about it. But I know there will be people like you, Asbot, that know think that it's his job and he has to front up no matter what. And we did see it with Tim and Errol Spence, who had a massive amount of media commitments, didn't they? And they both got through it. I think Errol Spence was this close to maybe doing what Nikita did today, but at least he did it with a bit of a smile. He sort of laughed it off in the end, but I can understand why you might think that way, Asbot. Sweet as he actually, what's he say? He doesn't blame Nikita. What's it say? Yep. I feel sorry for all the fighters having to answer the same stupid questions over and over from YouTube reporters. I.e., how are you feeling? How has the camp been? Yeah, I mean, there's only so many times you can say, no, camp's been good. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. Blah, 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 blah. And I just think, as I said at the start, that Ben Damon might have got a little bit of a shock because you would have heard it just went silent. And it's like, oh, what do I say now? Is he joking? Is he serious? Is he, you know, you could see that he wasn't quite sure what to make of what Nikita said or how he said it more specifically. So, yeah, I mean, and Ben's sort of got the standard old question, hasn't he? It's along the lines of, so what are we going to see on Wednesday night? That's the sort of the rollout question. And like you said there, how are you feeling? How's the camp been? You know, again, but Ben's in a really awkward situation as well. I mean, what can he ask? He's got to do probably 3 or 4 different interviews with these guys, and you can't just ask different questions all the time. He's probably trying to keep the questions simple as well because he knows that he doesn't want to sort of colour outside the lines and maybe make them think it too hard. He just wants to make it as easy as possible for the fighters, I'm assuming, and just ask the most obvious questions possible. So, yeah, it's a tough one. And it probably goes back to what I've been saying since Tim fought Errol and the build-up to that fight and the fight week. That do the fighters do too much? Is there too much expected of them? Who knows? I think what they've got to do is maybe start saying no to a lot of the YouTube reporters. And I don't like to say that because there's a lot of those YouTubers that do great work. But maybe, and I did touch on this with Glenn Jennings a week or 2 ago, to say, hey, look, we're not doing the YouTube interviews. We'll do a group interview today. We've got the press conference. Because look at today, they did the press conference. Yesterday, they did the grand arrivals. And after the press conference today, straight out to front, all the YouTubers, or not just YouTubers I'm gathering, but all the media packed there and all had their microphones out. And you could see that neither fighter was really up to it. I mean, Ben Marnie took the opportunity to have a bit of a crack at the rugby league team up there, the Gold Coast Titans. That he's a Gold Coast guy, and he went to the game the other day, and he wasn't mentioned, or the photo they put up on the social media was all about Nikita and not him. And so he took the opportunity to maybe have a bit of a fire back at the Gold Coast Titans. But yeah, I get it. I mean, as I said, are we asking too much of them? I think they've just got to learn to say no. And I wouldn't have begrudged Nikita today after that to go to the YouTubers, if that he was speaking to say, hey guys, look, really appreciate you being here today. As I just said at the press conference, I'm feeling good, ready to go. Apologies, but I've really got to get off and get prepared for the weigh-in tomorrow. And sorry guys, and just say that and just go. Rather than stand there and sort of in the sun, by the way, apparently it was pretty warm up there. Rather than sort of stand there and just answer the questions, not really the way we would like them answered. Just say, guys, look, I'm really sorry, but you know, we're going to have to leave this. I'm not going to be taking questions at this stage. So, but then again, Glenn Jennings, maybe he obviously ticked it off because he was okay with it. But I would think after the press conference would have been, guys, let's get organised. Nikita, let's go. We're going back to the hotel to rest, and then we're going to cut this weight, and then we're going to relax. Something along those lines. So, still with sweet as. What do you expect the fighters to say? Perhaps learn to ask some decent / relevant different type of questions, and the fighters will engage more. Also, it's every fight and every media day the same stuff. Well, exactly, sweet as. I said, especially with the Tim and Errol fight, we had the grand arrivals. Then they were interviewed. Then we had the press conference, which is one big interview. Then they were interviewed. Then we had the sit down where they were interviewed. Then we had the weigh-in. Guess what? They were interviewed again, you know, and then before the fight, they've got the microphones in the faces again. That's one area where I would definitely draw the line, is on fight night, to say to main event, I don't care, you know, what stake you've got in it. Look, I'm not going to be answering questions before the fight, and make a bit of a stand. I know a lot of it's pre-recorded, you know, an hour or two earlier, but yeah, I'm surprised that some of these fighters are allowed to do as much media as they do. So, all right, so I've got about 5 minutes before Pete comes on, so I'll keep going there. Tony, what do you got there, mate? Lyndon, do you remember the Bluestone challenges of the 1980s? Lester, Dave Russell, Stan the Man, it's Longinides, all competed against some of Coburg's finest. Even Collingwood's Craig Starcevich did a foot race by memory. No idea, Tony. I've never heard of that. No, sorry, mate. I'll definitely put this one up. Ryan, can't the Blues? Let's go. Yes, if you didn't see it, the Blues won, I think, the 11th game of the last 14 games. I think they won. So they 11 wins, 2 losses and a draw in the last 14 games after winning 1 of their first 9 games. So they dropped 8 of the first 9 and they've won 11 and a half of the last 14. So yes, Ryan, come on the mighty Blue Baggers. We're going to whip Melbourne this week and then not sure. I think we play Geelong after that. So whatever. But I think we're looking at next year. But hey, you never know. You just never know. All right, we're going to go to William G. Where are you, William? If I can find you there. I think I can find you there. Where's your comments there? I've lost you there. Oh, no, there you are. All right, what do you got there, mate? All right, thought the weekend fights were substandard. Roll is in the same champion category as Barrios. Nikita Zeus should make his US debut against Madrimov. Yeah, another candidate for above category. Yeah, look, I thought it was okay, William. I thought that you're right. Rolly Romero is a very limited fighter. Make no mistake about that. And I thought he didn't fight well. But I said in my video this morning, I was surprised that he didn't take center ring. He didn't try and push Teofimo back because Rolly's not a boxer. He's not the type of guy that's going to outbox someone, especially like Teofimo Lopez. And when Teo took center ring and was pretty much just sort of finding his rhythm and, you know, going side to side and picking his punches, and Rolly was just sort of backing up and not really throwing anything, just sort of waiting for one big shot, I sort of thought, well, to me, the fight's really over here now. Round 5, that definitely changed. I thought, geez, he's nailed him. He's got him. And then the cut, I thought that was his big opportunity. But outside that 5th round, I thought Riley was really disappointing. And I certainly don't know how he could possibly think that he won that fight. And one of the judges as well had it 6 rounds each, which again blows my mind. But I had it 8 rounds to 4, which I think one of the judges had. The other one had it 7 rounds to 5. So I just thought it was a winnable fight for Rolly Romero, but he just fought the complete wrong fight. And as I said, backing up from the start, looking for one shot at a time. You're not going to beat Teofimo Lopez like that. If you let him dictate the pace, he's too sharp, he's too quick for Rolly, and just like great IQ, Teofimo Lopez. I wouldn't go so far to say he's as bad as Barrios William, but yeah, he was disappointing yesterday. I just thought that he would have offered a bit more, really sort of put it on Teofimo and really pushed him back and made him work, cut off the ring, really try and muscle him around. But he did none of that. He's just pretty much let Mario Barrios. So I'm looking at your comment there. He pretty much let Teofimo Lopez just do what he wanted to and didn't really do anything to change tactics during the fight. Even after the 5th round when he had Teofimo on the go, and almost had him knocked down. And obviously, as I said, with the cut, I was surprised he didn't start the 6th round really quick and really come out fast and really try and put the pressure on Teofimo, who would have went back to the corner. He would have been, geez, how's the cut? How am I looking? Is the cut okay? And he would have obviously been a little shaken up from what happened in the 5th round. But then for Rolly to just pretty much go out there and not really do anything. For much of the round, it was Teofimo Lopez actually was the one dictating the pace again and actually making Rolly get on the back foot, which is not the type of game plan that was going to win him the fight. So it is what it is. We've got a new WBA champion, some really good matchups to be made, and Teo did call out Lamparo and the winner of Garcia and Ben after the fight. So Lamparo's got a lot of options, hasn't he? He's pretty much got 3 world champions all looking in his direction. I've got no doubt that Garcia and Ben, the winner of that fight, will be looking at him as well. Haney as well, of course, and now Teo is looking at him as well. So some big fights for Lamparo. So, yeah, I thought the whole card yesterday, William, was a little bit ordinary as well. I wasn't that excited by any of the fights. What was the one that was? I only sort of watched bits and pieces. I was sort of going back and forth. There was one that was very, very dodgy. I think it didn't really go the way I thought it would anyway. So, all right. So now, having said that, we are going to go to our guest of the night. I'm going to get rid of that comment there. And we're going to bring in our guest and welcome Peter Bedell from Code Sports. How are you, Pete?
Hey,
Oh, hang on.
Moscow, how you
Oh,
going,
there you are.
buddy?
I'm going to
You good,
say
mate?
I couldn't hear you there for a sec, but now I can. So welcome back to the show, mate. Been a big day.
It has been, Lyndon. I'll tell you what, it feels like Christmas for me, mate. Christmas Eve. I can't wait. It's two sleeps to go. I won't sleep tomorrow night, Lyndon. I can't wait. No, it's been a good build up so far. Like I know, not a lot of hate, obviously, between the guys, but sometimes
Mm.
that's a good thing. I think there's a mutual respect there, mate. Look, I think this is going to be one of the great domestic fights. I stylistically, I really love this fight, Lyndon. I think we're going
Mm.
to see some really fascinating narratives in this fight.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I've actually welcomed the no bullshit. I suppose there hasn't been the stare offs and the pushes and all the crap that a lot of the fighters go on with, and it was probably good to see as well with Tim and Errol a couple of weeks ago as well. But give us a bit of a temperature gauge up there, mate. You're obviously been there for the grand arrivals yesterday and the press conference today, and give us a little bit of a feel on fight week up there.
Yeah, look, it's cranking up amongst the boxing fraternity. I mean, there's a real excitement about this fight and just what it will throw up. I mean, I know. Actually, one thing, Lyndon, that's concerned me a little bit is Nikita Zoo's behaviour this week. He's been quite short with the
Mm,
media. He's almost been a bit of a smartass at times. And look, I'm a massive fan of Nikita and his development. I just sort of feel like I know he says he gets bored with some of the questions, but there is a simple solution. I mean, if you don't want the media, I mean, the media helps bankroll his career through
mm.
Main Event, Fox Sports. If you don't want the attention, you don't want the questions from the media, well, you can do something else with your life if you want. You can go and be an architect like he
Yeah.
was. So look, I just hope Nikita sees that us boxing lovers and experts and media, we support Nikita. We want him to do well. We want him to win a world title. We're all behind him. And so I hope he sees that and recognizes that we're all just invested in his journey and the sport generally. So I hope Nikita sees that. But generally, Lyndon, I think there's a real feeling, or at least for me, I reckon Ben Marnie is a huge smoky in this fight. Like, I think Nikita wins, but I would not rule out an upset at all, Lyndon, because I think
Mm.
Ben Marnie's got the tools to do something special and potentially pull off one of the biggest wins of his career.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, mate. It's okay if you want to call me Hosco, by the way, Peter. It's my nickname. It's all good, mate. It's my new
I love
nickname
it.
amongst all the watchers now. I'm just Hosco now, thanks to you. So thank you. It's all good, mate.
I've got to claim the fame, Moscow. You bloody beauty.
Yeah, no, it's all good, mate. Well, it was one of the first things we touched on when we started the show tonight was Nikita's demeanour today, and I suppose you got to have that mixture between was a little bit of sass, was a little bit of sarcasm, was being a little bit rude. I mean, I just said Ben Damon looked a little bit taken aback by it because I know he's got his standard list of questions that he rolls out, and I know he probably tries to keep it as straightforward as possible. He doesn't want to let the guys sort of think too much, but.
Yeah.
What was the talk amongst you guys there today? The sort of the journalists and whoever it might be about the mood of Nikita Zoo.
Well, it was a mood like our sentiments, Lyndon, are that we're a bit bemused by Nikita's behaviour. I mean,
Mm,
it's a similar thing, and it's part of the reason why Jai Opetaia has previously whinged about not getting love from the Aussie media. But I remember going to a press conference before he fought Breedis, and we asked him certain things, and I remember one journo said, we did a poll this week, and we ranked the pound for pound best Australian fighters at the moment, and you're number one. And Jai said something along the lines of, well, I don't give a stuff about what you
mm,
guys think. And it's
mm,
like, well, if you're going to be combative with the Aussie media, then get stuffed. We won't get behind you. And
mm,
that's the feeling. So I hope Nikita doesn't go down that path because he is different. He is engaging for that reason. He has a great story. Look, he's part of Australian boxing royalty.
mm,
But if he also needs to understand, Lyndon, the salesmanship involved and the theatre of boxing. And we see that with Keith Thurman. Is there a better salesman than one
Mm,
time? Like
mm,
he's a joy. And even Tony Harrison, he was out here last week for that matchroom debacle. I thought he was magnificent in the way he sold the fight and took on Eddie Hearn at the press conference. And that WWE style theatre is what creates interest, what generates interest. And without the media, these guys get no attention at all. So I hope Nikita's cognizant of that because he's got some amazing skills. He's a likable guy by
mm,
nature. Like I love listening to him when he does speak because he's actually a smart bloke, having been an
mm.
architect. He speaks with clarity, with depth, with a bit of intellect and thought. So I hope we see that side of Nikita because when he opens himself up, he's really easy to like.
Yeah, I think it's sort of from the outside looking in. He's almost got to steel himself to do it. Like it's like, all right, take a deep breath. I've got to get through
Yeah.
today. I'm gonna just be calm. I'm gonna think about the questions. I think what sort of looked like today is that it was just like, well, I'm just going to let the emotions sort of spill out, and this is the way I'm feeling at the moment. And you know what? I don't feel like answering your question, so I'm going to be a smart ass about it.
Yeah, yeah. And look, Lyndon, I got no doubt. Like, I'm sure every athlete must hear the same old questions, like, how's your
Mm,
camp been? How's your training going? And you think, oh, far out. Like, do I have to hear this
mm,
again?
mm,
But look, ultimately, Nikita's a smart guy and he should know how to navigate that sort of stuff. And look, I will say, Lyndon, there was one comment that he made, though, that really fascinated me. He said, I think it was in an interview with Jay McAllister, he said, that boxing's almost become meaningless to him now
mm,
because since having a child and getting married or having a partner, he's realised that there's a lot more outside of boxing. And to me, that's an intriguing comment because to me, I think Lyndon, you've got to be totally invested in the sport as a boxer. I mean, we saw it even with Jeff Horn. Like Jeff Horn said, when he had kids come along, it really does
mm.
almost bring out a softer side in you, and sometimes you need that killer. So I'll be fascinated to see how Nikita goes on this journey now with his young family, whether he's totally committed for the next 5 years or has a loss and just says, I'm done, boys. See you later. I'm going to the farm that I want to buy
Mm.
with the money that I'll make. So yeah, it's a fascinating study. I don't really know where Nikita's going to go long term.
Yeah, and he did sort of say that one thing he has done is not bring the family into the boxing world. He's left them at home. He likes something like the comfort of distance or whatever it might be. But yeah, he's an interesting one. I did actually make just a comment before you come on that I think maybe what he should have done today. Obviously, he didn't want to be there. He'd had enough. He's got a weight cut to do after the press conference and everything else. That maybe he should,
Mm.
instead of fronting, we'll call them the YouTube reporters that were all there and everyone else, that were all there with the microphones, is to maybe politely say, hey guys, look, appreciate you coming, but look, I've got a bit on today. Really appreciate your support and everything else, but I'm just going to leave this for today. And I don't think any of those reporters would have thought too much about it.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, Lyndon. And look, it's funny, isn't it, right? Because I think Nikita too is very much an introvert. Like when you look at his
Mm,
personality, I know that as he often says, he'd just love to go out crocodile Dundee style and
mm,
just go into the bush and go hunting and catch a crocodile or something, but not have to worry about all us annoying peasants in the media who want to talk to him. So I know he is a bit of a solo character
mm,
and probably isn't. I guess as comfortable in big company or large masses as other people. But I know his brother, look, Tim probably
mm.
would get sick of the same questions too, and he's always handled the media with the plum, really. So, look, but Lyndon, I'm fascinated to get your thoughts on this fight. I think it's going to be. I think it goes deep. Personally, I
Mm.
think it's going to go late. I've heard a few people say to me, Pete, no, Nikita's going to stop him early. But you know boxing well, Lyndon. What do you think, mate? Who wins?
Yeah, look, I think Nikita. I wanted to go through a couple of fights with you actually, Pete, but I
Yeah.
think Nikita for me. I think look, Ben is a very crafty, hard drilled. Like he's obviously had a very good, not just boxing but combat sports background with the Muay Thai and the kickboxing, and they don't muck around in those sports. So I think he's very well drilled. I think he's got a pretty good boxing IQ. He's a good boxer. I just have the feeling though that he's just not going to be strong enough over was it 10 rounds? I think it is, isn't it? 12.
12. It's actually going
Yeah.
12. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
just not sure. And this is another question I suppose we've got to ask about Nikita Zoo. He hasn't been 12 rounds before. Actually, I don't think Ben has either. So it might sort of balance that out. But I just don't think he's going to be strong enough as the fight goes on. And I really liked what Kyle Mazzuti has said. Obviously, been in the ring with both guys not so much calling Marnie a cat. I didn't really didn't really like that too much, but and I'm sure Ben didn't either. But I just think he made a good point in that if you let Ben stand off from a distance and box you and have room and time his shots, then he's going to do some damage. And I think if Nikita does give him that room, then Ben will have success. I've got a feeling that Nikita's going to try and close the range and take away the distance. I just think in close, Nikita's going to be way too strong. And I think he's improved a lot. Now, whether he's going to be good enough to challenge for world titles and all that sort of stuff, which I wanted to ask you about as well with your article this week. But whether he's got
Yeah.
enough to go to the next stage is another question. But I just think with Ben, I just don't think he's going to have the punching power and the strength to keep someone like Nikita Zoo off him for 12 rounds. Now, I think for the first 6 or 7 rounds, going to be very, very competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if it's line ball after 6 or 7. Then I just think
Yep.
Nikita sort of steps it up. And the other intangible I've got sort of in my mind is that from Ben Marnie's point of view is that if he has a nice upbeat pace of this fight, so if he makes Nikita work and follow him around, we have seen Nikita gas quite badly in some of his fights. So that's from Ben's perspective. I can see his way of winning the fight is to try and take, as they say, Nikita into deep waters and maybe finish strong. But I just think Nikita's come far enough in his journey so far that he's going to have enough to cut Ben down. I wouldn't be surprised if he stops Ben in maybe 9 or 10 rounds.
Yeah, look, that's a great analysis. And then, look, I'll say for me, the narrative of this fight will be power and physicality against precision and evasion. And I think Ben Marnie has a nice boxing IQ. He's very cerebral as a fighter, great footwork, actually controls distance quite well. But Lyndon, I was talking to him the other day, and something that he told me really sparked my interest in him. He said that with his kickboxing, he's had 40 fights in Muay Thai kickboxing. He's had broken bones 43 times. He's broken his right hand 7 times. And in a fight as a 16-year-old, one of his first fights, he broke 3 ribs and 2 vertebrae in that fight. And so what I'm saying is he is one tough bastard.
Mm,
And he has never been stopped in 58 fights. And he said to me, Pete, I've lost fights. I've fought for $1,500, walked away with nothing. So he goes, I know what it's like to lose fights, but I've
mm,
never been stopped. And so if Nikita can stop him, this is potentially the greatest
mm,
scalp of his career of Marnie. But I got to say, Lyndon, too, I liked with Nikita against Oscar Diaz, it was the punches he didn't throw. I thought he showed a great maturity. Distance control was supreme, and I liked his tempo variation. Like there were moments where he turned on the accelerator, but then he backed off. He had some nice feints. So I think he's shown a nice repertoire, Nikita, developmentally. And I think if he can get on the inside, I agree with you. I think it goes late. I think it goes around
mm.
9, 10 rounds. And
Yep.
then the longer the fight goes, it plays into Marnie's hands. However, I think Nikita eventually the power will overwhelm him and he'll stop him late.
Mm. Yeah, that's wrong with you, especially as far as the durability of Ben goes. I'm not saying that Nikita's going to iron him out and knock him out. I think it'll be a referee stoppage. I wouldn't be surprised, or maybe even a corner stoppage where he's taken a lot of punishment. I don't think he's going to go down easy if he does go down at all. I just think I can just see a little bit of him just being worn down as the fight goes on and just not having that power to keep Nikita off. And as I said, I think Nikita
Yeah.
has grown enough as a fighter that he should be able to get the job done. But if he can't get the job done, well, obviously, I mean, you talked about it before as far as his view on boxing and maybe his passion for boxing. I just got a feeling if he was to lose one of these fights, he'd probably just walk away. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a good point. I mean, look, the fact is, Lyndon, where does Nikita Zoo go if he loses
Mm,
this fight? I mean, if he's I think he's showing signs to me that he's not just a domestic slugger, that he can be an international contender. And
mm,
we're about to see in this fight, he'll probably clean out the backyard now. I know he hasn't fought Andrew Hunt and Ben Hussein and those sorts of guys, but I think if he beats Ben Marnie, it's a fair barometer to say that he's
mm,
beaten the best in Australia. It's 1v2 at the moment on Wednesday night. So he beats Ben Marnie, then he's ready for the international launch to Vegas in December or January. So I think you're right, Lyndon. If he loses right now, it's catastrophic. It sets him
mm,
back. It snakes and ladders right down to the bottom again to start. Loses the world ranking, And I don't think, I mean, he could probably rebuild with a Ben Hussein fight or
Mm.
Andrew Hunt, but would he have that desire and the capacity and the passion to do that? That's the big question mark. But I get the feeling, Lyndon, my worry for Ben is his recent fights. I wonder if he's flatlining. He was
Mm.
disappointing against Dan Hill. I know he got the decision, but he wasn't great. Winston Hill was an easy fight, and then even Fan Jiang, I think on the Opetire undercard, it was 10 rounds.
Yeah.
I was there that night
It's
watching. It was
lackluster,
quite
wasn't it?
laborious. Yeah,
Yeah.
lackluster. Hunt, good word. So
Mm.
yeah, laborious, and I just didn't see any pop in his punches. So I don't really think Nikita will fear too much early, and he'll start to walk him down. So, but
Mm.
I hope it goes the distal a long way into the fight because it deserves that, and Nikita needs rounds. So, but
Yeah.
Ben's been a pleasure to watch Lyndon this week. He's been marvelous to listen to. He's a real character. He's intelligent, and I've really enjoyed talking to him. He's been a marvel. So I hope he fights well.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I just think he's been an absolute credit to, well, boxing in general. No limit to have him on the show. Obviously, his trainers, his mentors, his promoters, everyone like that. I think he's handled himself so well. And I do agree with Nikita. The reason why I don't think, well, I think it would be a long road back is because I just don't think he would have the, I suppose, desire to rebuild. Now, obviously, he could rebuild. You got another Tim showing it. You got a couple of wins on your belt. You're back amongst it. My fear for Nikita is if he did lose on Wednesday night, he would think, well, geez, if I can't beat this guy, how am I going to, go to the top
Yeah,
level? And the only reason I'm doing this is to get the top level. And I don't really, at 28 years of age, want to go through this whole thing of another year or two of building myself up and not maybe being good enough to get there. So he's got
yeah,
obviously got other
yeah,
priorities, and he's not like Tim, who's lived and breathed boxing for however long now. He's, as you said, he's almost like, well, I'm good at it. I may as well do it for as far as I can go. And if it doesn't work, well, I suppose I'll just go on to something else. That seems to be his mentality. But I want to hear about this hit list, Pete, because you've published
yeah,
it this week on Code Sports.
yeah.
Harrison, Thurman, anyone else we want to add there?
Yeah, well, I'll just say quickly, Lyndon, he might end up being on Boxing Deep Dive, mate. If he quits boxing, he
Yeah,
might
well, I'll
join
have him
you.
on.
Might be an analyst.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, he might join us. But look, look, Lyndon. Yeah, the hit list. So there's a real. I've spoken to No Limit and Glenn Jennings, his manager, about the path and the progression for Nikita now, and it is very calculated, deliberate, and almost a parallel carbon copy of what they put Tim through. We saw Tim have those progression fights where he obviously won the Australian title, beat Joel Camilleri, and then started to test himself. Obviously, that great night in 2020 when he beat the great Jeff Horn, and that was
Mm,
almost a baton passing for Australian boxing, the new golden boy. And then Tim then tested himself against the Terrell Gachets
it shows, yep.
overseas, Gachet, and so it was a very good strategy, and I think Nikita goes down a similar path. So as you mentioned, I got told today, Lyndon, that there's been an advancement in talks between Harrison and Thurman's camps with No Limit. So that's genuine. They definitely look. Those two names have been put to Glenn Jennings as options, and then they're looking at Josh Kelly. Obviously, enters the frame as the
Mm,
IBF champion if he wins this Eliminator, Nikita. Where I get the feeling though that they're thinking, well, just because we win the Eliminator doesn't mean it's predicated on us now taking on Kelly. I don't think they
mm,
will take him next. I think the plan is definitely go overseas. They're ready for the international stage if he beats Marnie. Harrison is 36 next week. Thurman's 37. I think they're at the right age, at the right
mm,
stage for Nikita to beat them. They're past their best. And then I know I spoke to Glenn Jennings last night at the Grand of Rivals, and he was saying they're looking at, even if not those two, then another lower ranked international opponent, maybe someone just above Oscar Diaz's level, maybe number 10,
mm.
number 11, but maybe an American in that range or another foreign fighter overseas to give him a taste of America. But that's the plan. And then maybe Kelly, I've been told he'll fight for the world title if he keeps winning next year sometime.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about the Josh Kelly comments because for me, it just doesn't sort of add up. And I understand he's the target. This fight's an IBF eliminator. I get all that. But Josh Kelly, there was on the telecast yesterday of Tio and Roller Ramiro. They had the halftime sort of thing they do, and it was said that talks with Boots Ennis are well advanced. So, and that would be at the end of the year. Now, let's say whoever wins that fight, I'm assuming they would then look for unification fights. And let's say it's Boots Ennis, who I think would beat Josh Kelly if they do fight. He would have 3 belts. Fundora's got the other belt. Would they really want to steer Nikita towards Boots Ennis or Sebastian Fundora even within the next 12 to 18 months? I wouldn't have thought so. I think they're going to be relying on Josh Kelly to win. But even if he does win, all of a sudden, Fundora, Ortiz, they all swing their attention towards him, and Nikita gets bumped. So what's the timeline that they have in mind for this? Because for me, that just doesn't add up at this stage.
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, it's interesting, Lyndon. I spoke to Matt Rose today, and Matt says to me, and it's a big comment, it's a bold comment. He says that Nikita can beat Fandora in 12 months. He believes not now. He says he's not
Mm-hmm.
ready, but he says he can beat Fandora. And I said, Matt, you're kidding yourself, mate. Like, no, are you fair dinkum? And he said, mate, he believes styles make fights, and he says, look, Nikita hits harder than Tim. And he says that if Nikita gets inside the way Tim did in their first fight at T-Mobile Arena, he says if Nikita cracks Fandora, he doesn't think he'll get up from some of Nikita's shots. He just says Nikita's got more power, and he believes that southpaw style can actually be more advantageous. And he reckons he could have more success, Nikita, against Fandora than Tim did. So look, it's a fascinating analysis. I don't quite agree with him, mate, at least not yet. I look at all the 154s, Lyndon, and to me, the only way I believe he can beat is Kelly at the moment.
Yeah.
Mate, Ennis, I think Ennis slices and dices him. I think Ortiz is a thrashing machine. I don't think Nikita would handle his pressure and punch
Mm.
output. So I think Nikita has to be handled delicately, carefully, slowly, because he's only 13 fights in. And I think
Mm.
it's career suicide to put him in against those big dogs right now. But maybe in 12 to 18 months or 2 years, bring it on.
I think Matt might have borrowed George Rose's Don King wig, I reckon, just to try and hoodwink us a little bit into that. And look, I love Nikita, I do. I think he's an exceptional guy and he's great for boxing. But as far as is he at the level yet? I suppose we don't really know. Zarafa was supposed to be the guy that sort of showed us. Ben, even on Wednesday, I know he's the best sort of fighter he's fought, but is it still going to tell us a lot? We don't know. But I suppose it's all
Mm,
hypotheticals at the moment. The thing with Fundora as well. It's one thing to say, hey, Nikita's stronger, he punches harder, and that's awesome. But good luck.
yeah,
He's not as tall as Tim either, I don't think. And look, Tim was sort of swinging for the fences as well and missing by sort of this much as well.
yeah,
So look, I really hope that he's correct. But geez, I just think it's far too early to even be thinking of Fundora and Ennis. But even Josh Kelly, I mean, have I not looked at the Bakram Murtazalia fight? He boxed very, very well that night.
yes, he did, he did.
Good with his quick with his feet and hands, got good skills. So he's not a lay down either. So
Yeah.
it's the division you don't really want to be sort of coming up with and fighting those guys, isn't it? Maybe you should do what Tim's doing and just maybe go to 160. It's probably an easier title fight there for him.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a good point. I mean, even Lyndon, you're right. I mean, even if say Nikita went to 160, because he'd be potentially more powerful as a puncher with a bit more
Mm,
weight behind him. I mean, he can probably maybe beats a Denzel Bentley. You know,
mm,
maybe, and I don't think he beats Adames. Adames is a
mm.
beast,
But he's going to
but it's
168
not.
too, apparently. So
Yeah,
mm,
there you go. And so it's definitely not as deep as the 154 division, but I agree. You know, Lyndon, the big jury. What I want to see from Nikita on Wednesday night. We all know about his power, but I want to see his defensive prowess. I want to see his defensive technicality because he has still been too loose. And in every fight, which is probably what makes him engaging and entertaining, he gets tagged at some point. I mean,
mm,
even Danilo Criardi tagged him. You know, Ben Horn tagged him, and that was only
mm.
early. That was his third fight. So, but I thought Nikita showed his best defensive display against Diaz, and that
Mm.
was a bit of a masterclass. So hopefully he's only leveling up and going to get better because at that level, Lyndon, as you know, in the world title arena, if you leave too many gaps to get tagged, you get murdered. So
Mm.
I think Nikita and Ben Marnie will test him there because he is an
Mm.
intelligent fighter. He's
Yep.
got good footwork. He knows how to control distance and gap control, and he's good at cutting off the ring when he needs to. And he's also not a bad counter puncher sometimes, Ben. So as Ben Hussein found out when
Mm.
he broke his jaw. So he's got enough power to do some damage, but whether it's accumulative and he gets enough shots on Nikita, I don't know. But
Mm.
Nikita, if he's fair income, he has to win this fight.
Yeah, 100%. Now, mate, I know you got to go soon, but before you do, I want to touch on Liam Paro. Now, there's talk about things
Mm.
aligning and everything else. All of a sudden, he's been mentioned yesterday by Teofimo Lopez. Obviously, we've got the Haney thing going back and forth. Who knows if the win of Garcia and Ben maybe calls him out. There's so much going on. Can you give us any maybe insight to what the No Limit boys are saying about Liam Paro next?
Yeah, look, I spoke to Paro's team last night at the Grand Arrivals, and geez, that win for Team has thrown a bit of a spanner in the works, hasn't it? Because I think there was a sentiment from the Paro camp that potentially they could have had Romero. Obviously, PBC stable would have been an easy fight to make with the negotiating from No Limit and PBC's alliance. And so they were, and I think Rolly's very beatable as he showed yesterday. I think Liam has the tools to beat him. There, I know that they had made, I'm told, an offer to the Haney camp. It was around, I don't have the exact figures, but I know, I think there was around between $2 million that Liam was seeking as a payday, and Haney rejected that.
Mm,
So, but I think they were reluctant to take the fight because I think Para knows, look, he'll give a good account of himself, but it's not the right fight for Liam. He's not a guy that
mm,
engages. Haney, he's a bit of a professor. He's a technician. He's not the type of opponent that I think would walk on the shots for Liam, which he likes to do.
mm,
So, yeah, Haney's probably not the right fight. I think he beats Liam Para, but I think Liam can beat all
mm.
the rest of the guys at 147. So Haney looks like that's out of the equation. He'll probably look to make a big money mega fight, all American showdown with Tio. So then I know Liam wants to fight Tifimo, have that unification bout, but whether he's got the cachet and whether they can monetize it, that's going to be the problem
Mm.
for Liam. But of course, there's Garcia, Manny Pacquiao. Who knows? Can he get
Yeah,
Manny to
well,
Australia again? Why
yeah.
not? That'd be a massive money fight for him. So I'd love to see that
And
if
of
Manny's
course,
prepared to keep fighting.
George Kambosos has been thrown out there as well. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's a little bit more complicated because he's got to have a fight to be ranked at 147. So he probably have to fight by the end of the year.
Yes.
Liam's going to have a fight before they fight, but so maybe it'll never happen. I love the George fight, but I don't think George anywhere near deserves the fight. And I don't like saying because I'd love to
Yeah.
see it as an all Aussie fight, but he hasn't fought at 147. He's coming off a loss, hasn't fought for over a year, whatever it's been, hasn't really had a signature win since winning the world title. So, and I love George Kambosos as an Aussie fan, but I just don't think he's done
Yeah,
enough
me
to
too.
warrant it. But of course, that means
Yeah.
nothing when there's money involved, does it?
Yeah, that's right. And Lyndon, I can tell you now, there has genuinely been discussions. I know Jim Cambosis has had talks with No Limit in recent weeks and months, so they have discussed it on more than one occasion. So there is an appetite there, but as you said, Lyndon, they need the pieces to fall into place at the right
Mm,
time. And I think George needs to talking to Paro's camp. They're saying that he needs to get back into the winner's circle first, George Cambosis, and if he can do that with a fight of someone of some ilk, then he can get into that spot of being ranked, and then they can talk turkey. But I know
mm.
Liam Paro wants the fight. I know Liam Paro thinks he beats George. Right now, if I'm a betting man, I think Liam would outbox George.
Yeah, I
But
think so.
George is always, yeah. But
Mm.
George is a proud man. He's a fit man. He's been a wonderful servant for Australian boxing. What a warrior when he beat Tio that day. So look, he wouldn't rule out George, but I think Liam probably has too many bullets in his arsenal for him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love George. I love the swagger that he gets in around
Yeah.
fight week, and he's a chirpy little bugger. But last thing before you
He
go,
is.
mate, Jai Pataya next month on the undercard of Garcia and Ben. What do you think of his fight with McKaylee, and what happens after that?
Well, it's a bit of a similar situation with Nikita Linden. Like, if he's fair income, Jai, we all keep hearing he's the king of the cruiserweights and he's the beast in that division. Well, he should knock him off. I
Mm,
think if he's, I mean, I must say, there's been little signs to me, Linden, just little ones of maybe a little bit of a regression in Jai lately. I'm worried about. He hasn't been inactive, I guess, into that degree in terms of the pure definition, but I haven't liked the quality of his opponents. Like Squayo,
mm,
poor opponent. Naika was a step in late. Sikara was game and crafty for a 25-0 fight or a 23-0, whatever he was, but he nearly dropped Jai in that
yeah.
fight. Naika rocked Opatari, I think, in the third
Mm,
round. His legs wobbled a bit. That and then Glanton. I mean,
mm,
if he should have stopped Glanton. I mean,
mm.
Glanton's tough, but not in the same league as Jai. So look, I personally think Benavidez beats Jai. I think Benavidez is a
Okay.
machine.
Yeah.
I think his rapid fire punching style is enormous. I think his volume I say that predicated Linden on the fights that Jai's had lately. I don't think they're improvement fights. I think he's withering on the vine, and all this stuff with Zulfa, the political dramas, the legal action. I think that's really just destabilizing for Jai. So look, I hope
Mm,
Jai unifies, wins every belt. He's a bloody champion. I was there that night when he beat Brutus with a broken jaw. I'll never forget it. So
mm.
he is one of our greatest fighters, but I still think he's looking a little bit vulnerable at the moment. But I hope he beats the Mikhalian. He should beat him if he's at his best. and then that could set up some monster fights for him.
I'll be looking forward to when you actually do interview Jai Fight Week, talking about that he's not going to beat Benavidez. Now, I'm assuming that Code Sports and Main Event are going to fly you over to cover the fight, I'm assuming.
Maybe with your bank balance, Hosco, you can pay for it, mate. You can
Well, I'll be
fly us
there.
all over.
Well, I'll be over there. I
Oh,
think
good.
Jay
Yeah.
McAllister, I think I heard he's going to be over there. So we'll go cover the fight, mate. You guys at Code Sports,
Yes.
stay at home and put the feet up and watch it on the pay-per-view, all right?
Yeah. You can take my job, Lyndon. You can be the analyst on the panel, mate.
Yeah, I'll be giving the live updates from ringside, or not ringside, but up in the stands anyway, mate. But and I will be up there on Wednesday night, mate. So all the best for the call
beautiful.
up there. And
I hope to see you in there, mate.
Yeah,
hope
sounds
to see you
good,
in there.
mate.
I'll tell you what, Lyndon, before I go, I've got to say, we'll talk about some of the other fights on that card. I can't wait to watch Blake Wells against Callum Peters.
Yeah,
How good
good
is that
fight.
fight going to be?
Great
Fight. I really like Blake Wells. He's tough. I've never been stopped in 15 fights. And I reckon he's got a left hand. Like, my concern with Callum is he leaves himself open defensively. He gets tagged a lot walking forward. He almost has that Benavidez style where he punches on the run. And I reckon Wells could tag him a couple of times. So I can't wait to see that fight. And Cohen Mazudia, I'm really stoked that he'll fight Charlo next if he wins. He finally gets the greatest fight of his career. That's massive for Cohen. So
where will that fight be, by the way? Will they bring him back out to us? Well, it won't be Australia.
No, so what I'm hearing, Lyndon, and this might change, but I'm hearing right now it's going to be on the Fundora card, or October the 8th, I think it is.
Okay. 17th, I think it is.
17th, oh, there you go, 17th. So I'm hearing it's the Fundora card, and that, I mean, what a day for Kyle Mazudia to fight on a Fundora card in America. What a carrot that lies ahead if he can get rid of Sam Beck this week, and let's hope he does, because I'd love to see him get a big fight going. He's a good fella, real warrior. I love his attitude.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And he deserves a big payday. He's a champion. Lovely bloke.
And don't forget Kira Rushton and what's his name? Sondre Simmons. I've seen a bit of him. Yeah. That should be a good fight, actually. He looks like he's okay, that Simmons.
Yeah. Well, they're both 9-0 with 9 KOs, so identical records. And I'm told that one thing I know, Rustin's camp were looking at a couple of opponents, and they noticed that apparently he's quite lazy on the jab, Sondre, but they say that he's got explosive power. So they're going to have to be careful with his entries, Kira, because he does like to bang himself, Rustin. He's got some power, and when he smells blood, he goes for the jugular. But Sondre Simmons has some serious power. They reckon he's not very active with the jab, the lead hand.
Yeah,
but I think Rustin wins.
Yeah. Sorry, mate. Sorry,
I think Rustin wins.
No,
that's right, buddy. No, I think Rustin wins the fight. And then if he wins, Lyndon, I'm told that they're looking at Austin Akuso next, and then Paulo Akuso after that. So it could be the Akuso Bash brothers coming for Kira Rustin.
Yeah, and that's Simmons too. The only thing I will say about him is that just check his level of opposition. It hasn't been great, but overall, I mean, his opposition have been shocking, to be honest. But he does look like he's tall. He's got okay skills. You're right about the jab. It is lazy. He goes straight back in a straight line. His defense is a bit average, but he'll be capable. It looks like he's a pretty big sort of guy and pretty good jab as well. It's pretty fast, so I think he'll give Kira Rustin a test anyway, mate. But it should be a ripper night of boxing, and all the best to you, mate, on the night with who you up there with, Greeny and Megan Barnard. Who else is on the panel?
Yeah, so you wouldn't believe it, Lyndon. Last fight, you might remember Spencer v Zoo. Megan wasn't there. She contracted COVID the night before, the poor thing, and she was devastated because she really wanted to be part of that global telecast, and she was just too crook to do it. So that's why she was missing for that. But I saw her today. She's all pumped up. She's ready to go. So me, Greeny, and Megan on the panel. And we might get a few more cycling through the night, just some special guests. But yeah, looking forward to it, Lyndon. I always love Gold Coast Convention Centre. It's a good mood. It's an intimate place. It's the right place, of course, where the great Tim Zoo had those wins over Ocampo and Mendoza. His high point, the zenith of his career. So, but anyway, Lyndon, hopefully I'll see you in there, mate, and we can have.
Sounds good, mate. I'll give you a wave. I might hang around afterwards. I know you always do the post-fight wrap, so if I can get past security, I'll come and say good day.
Yeah, you might have to break me and Nikita up, mate. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So, all the best for Wednesday night, mate. Looking forward to getting up there, and everyone out there watching, make sure you buy it on Main Event, pay-per-view, and KO, and all the rest of it. Thanks, Pete. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Love your work, Hosco. I'm glad the name's sticking, mate. Keep calling him Hosco, everyone. We love it.
Thanks, Pete. See you, mate.
See you,
All
mate.
right, Peter Bedell giving the insights into the fights on Wednesday night. So sorry, guys, I didn't really have a chance to go through the questions. I'm not sure whether you guys had questions to ask Pete. He only could come on for half an hour. He's got some commitments, so I didn't have a chance to ask him anything there, guys, except for what I sort of had on my agenda. So apologies about that. But we'll go through your comments now, and we'll cover as much as we can. I'll just grab a drink here. Some very interesting points. I don't think he answered my question about whether he was actually going to be in Vegas for Jai Patai's fight and who was going to cover it for Code Sports, the main event, though, did he? But I'm only joking. It's not up to him. But I'll be there anyway, guys. I'll be there covering Jai Patai's fight with what's his name? Noel McCallion, I should say. All right, here we go, guys. We'll get back on track, and apologies again if I'm out of order here. We'll go to Big J. Where are you? I see you had a few comments there. All right. Tim needs to return to the furious body puncher he once was. I hope these are in order here, Big J. Sorry about that. If he can increase his head movement and defense, I believe he'll be successful at middleweight and win a belt, either IBF or WBO. Well, McKenna's got the IBF and Bentley's got the WBO. I think he's a good chance to beat any of those guys, Big J. And Adamas is moving up, so that battle will probably be fought by two WBC contenders. I'm not so sure I've got the rankings up at the moment. Where are we? I'll just see if I can quickly have a look at the rankings. Where are we? I'll just get rid of that there. Got stuff open everywhere on my screen. All right, so at 160 at the moment. So Jesus Ramos Jr. Now he's fighting on September 19th on the San Diego card. He's fighting Miriam Nursel Tanov. So who knows? That might even be for the full belt. Who knows? I mean, if Ramos has got the interim belt and what's his name? His name I can't pronounce, is the number one contender. If Adames does make the call to go to 168, don't be surprised if that's for the full belt. And Ramos is a winnable fight for Tim as well. A good fighter, but if he wins it, I'd back Tim to have a good crack at that. McKenna, as I said, has got the IBF belt, Lara the WBA, and Bentley the WBO. So 4 very beatable champions there. Well, 3 at this stage, and maybe 4 depending on who wins the WBC belt. So some good opportunities for him there, Big J. Marnie's paying $5.50 for the win on sports, but geez, that's good odds. I don't really bet, but that is good odds. Very, very good odds. I see Pete was adamant that Tim should fight Lara. Okay, I didn't see that, Big J. Should be a cracking fight on Wednesday. Nikita for the stoppage round 9. Yep. I said, what did I say, 9 or 10? I think these comments are out of whack here, Big J, but I'll get through them. Actually happy that Tim seems not interested in the Charlo fight. It brings no credibility whatsoever, but I have a feeling that PBC and possibly No Limit may force that fight. Your thoughts? Yeah, look, I think there's better fights out there for Tim. The only thing I will say, though, Big J, is that Charlo just represents that name. And as we've talked about, the 160-pound division isn't exactly bursting with big names at the moment. So I think unless he gets a world title shot, where I'm assuming he won't care who he fights, Charlo just seems to be the next logical step for him. The only thing, Charlo needs to have a fight. He does. I know Errol Spence has just come off 3 years out. Charlo's would be over 3 years. He needs to have a fight. If I was Tim's team, I'd say we've just had a pretty, I'm going to say a tough sell with Spence. Maybe not, because we all sort of fell into, well, it's still Errol Spence. I don't think the fans are going to be as react as well to that for a Charlo fight. I think they would say, geez, mate, we bought the 3 year out of the ring guy for this one. We're not going to do it again, especially someone that's very unpredictable as far as his camps and whether he's in, he's out. So he makes sense, but I just think he needs to have a fight before he fights Tim. Whether they go down that track, who knows? But credibility, well, it's still Jamal Charlo, though, Big J. This is the thing. And I know I agree with you. No doubt you're going to say it there, and I agree with you. Well, that should mean shit. It's the fight's got no credibility because he hasn't fought for 3 years, and it's at a weight that he's never fought at, all this sort of stuff. I get it. But when's that mattered when it comes to paydays? It just doesn't. So I just think they'll look at it. I think they'll definitely be going after the world title fight, one of those belts. But if it can't happen next, and maybe it could be Charlo, Big J. But again, I don't necessarily agree with it. Also with Tim, the winner of the Vito Mielnicki Amo Williams fight on September 9 will be an excellent next fight and would fit into the end of the year timeframe before taking on the WBO champ. Yeah, maybe. I doubt Amo Williams or either or Mielnicki, whatever his name is there. Where's he ranked? Oh yeah, he's ranked number 3 with the WBO. I don't think they'd be ready to fight by the end of the year, mate. I mean, this is not 1995. This is 2026, where they're probably looking at March or April next year. I'm probably thinking so. But Tim, I think from what I've heard, they definitely want to get him a fight before the end of the year. So I'm just not so sure either one of those guys sort of fit the bill. All right, what do you got here? I'm praying that No Limit doesn't feed Nikita a bunch of blown up, washed up welterweights like they did Tim. But this USA hit list, they're doing exactly that. Yeah, well, as Peter said before, I mean, Thurman and Harrison, I did say on my video this morning that neither one of them are relevant these days in the boxing world, but they are still names that would really benefit Nikita. They're almost like a poor man's sort of Errol Spence, how he was to Tim, as far as a very, very winnable fight, but a big name. Harrison and Thurman both got big names, especially Thurman. But the thing with both of them is that they've both been to Australia and won in Australia. So they're going to be easy sells, or an easy sell for all the fight fans out here. Probably more so for the casual fans. I would think that fans that actually know boxing and follow boxing closely would probably dissect both of those fights and go, "You're kidding, aren't me?" Thurman was just absolutely obliterated by Fundora after having, one fight in about 5 years. And Harrison's had 2 meaningless fights since being overrun by Tim Tszyu in that fight. That was 3 years ago now. So, but they will be banking on those casuals, and they have all the highlights of both guys, and they'll have Thurman knocking out Brock Jarvis, and they'll have maybe Harrison's good parts that he had against Tim Tszyu, and they'll be going with them with that narrative. But I think as far as credibility goes now, Big J, and relevance in boxing, I think they're both well and truly past it. But again, when has that mattered when it comes to matchups and money and everything else? All right, Drew, I'm definitely going for Marnie in this fight. His interviews are mature, articulate, and interesting. I love this guy's backstory and how he throws himself into various combat sports. Did I read that out before? Sorry about that. I think I did. As much as I like Ben Marnie, I have some very sizable question marks about his power for this fight and moving forward. I'm not even sure he has enough power to get the respect of the elite fighters. I don't think he does, Drew. And look, you've seen a bit of a bull in Dan Hill really have success against Ben. And with all due respect to Dan, he's nowhere near world class, but he's a really good, tough, strong domestic fighter who always turns up and has a crack. And he was able to push Ben Marnie to the point where a lot of people thought he won that fight. That's not great form coming into a Nikita Tszyu fight. The only thing about that I will say, though, is that sometimes when you fight guys you're expected to beat, and you've got these type of fights in the wings, it's very hard to get motivated for someone like Dan Hill. And again, respect to Dan Hill, he's a tough guy, and as I said, always comes to fight. But I looked at that fight and thought that Ben was really just in second gear the whole fight and just really struggled to get up for the fight. And I see similar things with Connor Wallace in his last couple of fights as well. But I got no doubt that when Connor Wallace gets in with Ben Whittaker, you're going to see a completely different fighter, motivated, really wound up guy, ready to go. And I think Ben will give his absolute best performance on Wednesday night. I just don't think it's enough. And I know power is not everything. It's not, it's not, if you haven't got power, you can't succeed. A lot of very, very good fighters and great fighters haven't had a lot of power, but we're talking about elite fighters. And Ben, while he's a good boxer, he's got pretty good footwork, he's got pretty good IQ and everything else. And Peter talked about how tough he was in his other sports. I still don't think it's going to matter a lot if you're not quite talented enough to go with Nikita, a fighter like Nikita, and also strong enough and punch hard enough to keep Nikita off you. So as I said before to Peter, I just think that he'll box okay early. I think Nikita will will probably look for openings and try and get his range and timing and see what Ben has. But I think once the halfway point of the fight is down, I just think that Nikita's going to really amp it up. And as I said earlier, the only way I can see Ben sort of maybe pulling the upset is if he makes Nikita fight at a really fast pace and maybe gasses him out and late in the fight starts to really pick it up. And we've seen Nikita in life and death struggles with fighters that he should not be having those struggles with. So I think if Ben can do that, I think he has got the ability to do what those other probably lesser fighters couldn't do, and that's maybe get Nikita out of there. But I just think Nikita's improved way too much for those Ben Horn and Danilo Creati type of fights to happen again. So, but we will see. But he was also rocked against Dylan Biggs, Kyle Mazudia, Jack Brubaker as well, although the Jack Brubaker one was more the headbutt that did the damage. But a lot of question marks there, that's for sure. All right, Drew. Skill for skill, I don't think there's too much separating Nikita or Ben. I think the first 7 rounds will be nip and tuck, but Nikita will be too strong and powerful down the stretch. Well, that's exactly what I said, Drew. I know this comment's from about an hour earlier, but that's exactly the way I see it too, mate. That's the way I see it. I think the first 6 or 7 rounds, very even. But I just think Nikita just starts to get on top as the fight goes on. And then once fatigue sort of kicks in as far as Ben goes, I just think Nikita will pick it up and get the job done late in the fight. All right, what do you got here? As much as I don't think Nikita will ever be a legitimate world champ, I must admit he has improved greatly from the raw, hittable product he was early on. His defense and attack has improved. Yeah, 100%, Drew. And I didn't actually get a chance to say to Pete before, but I saw enough in the Michael Zarafa fight to think that he's improved a lot. Now, I know it only went 2 rounds, but look at the first couple of rounds in that fight when Nikita, he was poised, he was patient, very calculated. He looked so much stronger than what Michael Zarafa did. Didn't see him really get hit in that fight. Might have been a couple of glancing punches here or there, but my worry in that fight was that Nikita was going to get caught early, get caught cold. But I thought his head movement was good. I thought his body placement, his feet placement was very good. And I thought even in those 2 rounds, I thought he showed a lot. I can't really take too much out of his last fight, but I thought the Michael Zarafa fight was a step in the right direction anyway. What do you got? If people are a fan of Nikita, no problem. For me, I'm sick of his complaining about people asking him the same questions. Sorry, but millions of people do the same repetitive tasks every day for a job. Yeah, no, you're right, Drew. And we did obviously touch on that in the chat with Peter Bedell. Again, I just think he should have taken a deep breath before that and really steeled himself for what was coming. I think he just went in there and let the emotions out. He did sort of laugh it off a little bit at the end, though, didn't he? But you could just tell that the whole thing had sort of got to him. And you are right. Look, it doesn't matter whether you're an introvert or you're a private person or you don't like the interviews and the press and all that sort of stuff. End of the day, it is your job. And whether you like it or not, you front up and you answer questions from those that are asking the questions too. So, yeah, I'm a little bit in between. I do agree with the ones that have no problem with it, but also the ones that maybe do. So, all right. William, always thought Madrimov was overrated and can't understand his rankings. His low KO ratio would be ideal for Nikita. I think it'd be a good fight for him, William. Israel Madrimov, yep, it would be a very, very good fight for him. Not a big puncher. I don't think the Russian style would really worry Nikita too much, who's almost got a bit of Russian style about him himself. So, yeah, I think that's a winnable fight for him. But again, I mean, we're all going on, I suppose, hypotheticals on what we've seen from fights with Nikita so far. We're all sort of guessing a little bit. And even on Wednesday, as I said before, I'm still not so sure we're going to get as many answers as we're going to need from Nikita, even if he has a really impressive performance and a win over Ben Marnie. We have to see him in with a fighter that's around the mark, within that top 15 before we make any assumptions at all, because a lot of fighters look good against lesser lights and then they get in there with good fighters and they get exposed badly. And Nikita, unfortunately, even after 12, 13, 14 fights, whatever he's had, has still got a massive question mark on him. He's got as many question marks on him as the Riddler, hasn't he, all over his body. But we need to see what Nikita has. I think for us to really think Nikita has that ability to go to the next level, as he almost needs to blow Ben Marnie out of there or have a real solid beatdown over 8 or 9 rounds and put him away in 9 or 10 rounds. I think that's what we need to see from Nikita, to think that he's rated as highly as a lot of people think. And don't forget, with Tim, he had the Joel Camilleri fight for starters, which was a real test for him. He got through that with flying colours, even though there's a few moments as well. He did get tagged. He got cut in that fight as well. We had the Dwight Ritchie fight, which I thought he looked great. And then we had the Brubaker fight, where it was a complete beatdown, and then he stepped it up from there and really progressed from there. So we need to see the same from Nikita. And as well with Tim, we had the Dennis Hogan fight, and I won't really count the Stevie Sparks fight, but definitely the Dennis Hogan fight was that last sort of real step up, and this is sort of Nikita's equivalent to that. All right. Asbot says to Drew, I wouldn't count him out. If he comes to this fight with even more improvement, I think he's a tough night for anyone. Sorry, I think I've missed the first comment on that. Polly, good show, thank you. That was the Hagler Leonard rewatch along. The only thing I've got to be conscious though, Polly, is that of getting banned or not banned but blocked, because the one I did last night was restricted because of putting the Hagler Leonard footage up. Now, actually, I didn't go to a proper site like Top Rank or any of those sites. I actually went to just a independent YouTuber and stole it from him or copied it from him, but I still got flagged for copyright. So I didn't get blocked entirely, but I was restricted, which is why there's only a couple of hundred people that have seen it. So that's going to be an issue going forward. I'll see what I can do. But thanks to everyone that did tune in. If you didn't see it, it was a rewatch along. We went through all 12 rounds with Hagler Leonard and scored it as we went. I had Leonard winning 116, 112, although 115, 113 seemed to be the mark for most people watching and those that have commented on it today. So check out next week. I think I'm going to do Canelo and Triple G, the first fight next, guys. The very, very controversial one I'll be doing next week if I don't get blocked, that is. All right. I'm going through the comments now. I think I've got through Big J. All right. Explicit. Gotta disagree with you on Garcia Ben not counting for Zuffa and the look back in 1 year. Besides Ryan, the undercard are all Zuffa fighters. Not counting for Zuffa. Oh, okay. Yeah, and not counting for the look back in 1 year. Well, I know they've got a bit to do with it, explicit, but it's not an exclusive Zuffa event. If this was Zuffa Boxing Presents Ryan Garcia versus Conor Ben, and like you said there, I know the undercard is full of Zuffa fighters, and that's great, but it's still not a 100% Zuffa event. Now, maybe in a year's time they could say we had a hand in this, we had a hand in Joshua versus Fury, and maybe had a hand in some other fight. Yeah, okay. But Dana White is the one, explicit, who said judge us in a year. And so far, hey, if it is the case here, and the co-promoters of this and co-promoters of Fury and Joshua, even though Eddie Hearn is adamant that they won't be, then I would say after a year, okay, that's good, but you didn't do a big show by yourself. And all the standalone shows they've done, hey, make no mistake, they've been good, solid events. But that's all they've been. They've been no different to any other, some of these other shows that you see on other platforms. They just haven't. Yep, they've been 50-50, a lot of the fights, been entertaining, but to me, they still haven't jumped off the screen like, wow, look at what we're doing. I think the events are still pretty bland. They're no different to what anyone else does. So I stand by my comments there, explicit. I'm hoping I'm different. Oh, I've got it wrong. And in 1 year, what is it now? It's been nearly 8 or 9 months. I'm hoping in another 3 or 4 months that maybe there has been something great they've done by themselves. But as I said, Dana White himself said, judge us in a year. And so far, I've seen nothing. I've just seen good, solid, okay fight cards on Paramount Plus. You know, we haven't seen them out of the basement yet, although I think they did one in Ireland, didn't they, just recently? Good card. But again, Dana White said, look at us after a year, and I haven't seen anything that would make me go, wow, look at what these guys are doing. I haven't seen a massive amount of signings. Yes, there's been some good ones. Shakur Stevenson, of course, is the latest one. Jai, of course, obviously. But, besides that, there hasn't been a lot of big names. There hasn't been lot of big events. And you're right, the undercard have got Zuffa fighters on this card coming up, but it's still not an exclusive Zuffa event. All right, so you're obviously a differing opinion. I think they've done a good job, Explicit. I think they've done a good job with what they've done so far, but they haven't done anything that makes me think, wow, these guys are going to take over boxing. These guys are just going to, geez, if I was Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum and Frank Warren, I'd be like, wow. And PBC, I'd be thinking, geez, I'm in a bit of trouble here. I don't think that so far they've got absolutely anything to worry about. And the thing you've also got to look at going forward there is the money. All the other promoters are self-sufficient. Now, I know the tap is the hose is hooked up to them as far as Oscar and Eddie. Well, not so much Oscar now, is it? But definitely Eddie and the others. They've got some money going through there, but they're not dependent on them now, Explicit. When Turkey first came in, Oscar and Eddie and everyone, they were latching onto as Turkey's walking. All of them were latched onto his legs as he sort of dragged them along, wasn't he? And they're all really attached to him and his organisation, and they were reliant on his money. But now you see Oscar sort of going off and doing his own thing. Eddie's sort of doing a few of his own things as well. So yeah, they're not totally dependent on Turkey Al Sheikh, where Zuffa is. And at any stage, if let's just say what's happened with the golf, Live Golf, they say, look, we've got all this stuff going on at the moment. This Zuffa boxing thing, that's probably going to be the first thing we turn off. Then we'll see how Dana White puffs the chest out and starts bad-mouthing everyone else and saying how he's the greatest and the best promotional firm in the world and everyone else is shit. Let's just see the attitude of him change then when he's got to actually put up his own money and not rely on Turkey Al Sheikh, because he's got a lot to say at the moment, but he's relying on someone else's money. And the Live Golf thing has got to be a stark reminder of how quickly this thing can end, because Live Golf were giving the normal PGA Tour, I don't know anything about golf, by the way. I couldn't even name a player, I don't reckon, except for probably Tiger Woods, if he's still around. But I do know what they did, and the breakaway, and Live Golf was getting all the big golfers over and doing all these big tournaments. And then the Saudis said, yeah, this is not really our thing. So they've pulled the rug, and now it's going to die. And PGA is sitting back laughing their asses off. And I can see a similar thing here, mate. If they don't really make some inroads in about 3 or 4 years' time, I wouldn't be surprised if they turn the tap off. And you've got Eddie and Oscar doing the same to Dana White as he goes back to UFC with his tail between his legs. So, and I did see an article the other day about Turkey Al Sheikh and the whole thing and the Saudi experiment, that they've done some great things, put a lot of money into the sport, but has the sport changed in really any way for the better since they've been in the sport? And I know a lot of those, I know I'm getting way off topic here, guys, because all you asked or all you commented on there was that you disagree with me about Zuffa. But they put on some great shows at the start, but the last 2 or 3 years hasn't been that many mega events. I know Canelo and Crawford was huge, and no doubt Fury and Joshua will be huge, but the card for Crawford and Canelo was nothing on what we'd seen with those other cards. And those big, massive, top-to-bottom cards have just dried up. So that shows me that, where the Saudi's going to be again in another few years' time. And will they pull the money? But again, I'll ask the question, besides putting on a few really good cards at the start, what have they really done to better boxing? I'll leave you guys with that question. I might ask the same tomorrow on Walking Boxing. What's that there, Big J? You want Peter Bedell on your show? Okay, well, just send him a message, mate. I'm sure you can get him on Instagram or something. I agree, if Tim can't beat an aging Lara, then it's time to hang them up, or is Lara the next Bernard Hopkins? I think he could be the next Bernard Hopkins. A Timu version, though, Big J. I mean, Bernard Hopkins is winning world titles and having big fights at 50 years of age. I mean, Lara hasn't really had a massive fight apart from Canelo, has he? And that was 12 years ago. So, what's that? A cool suggestion is having the next rewatch based on the most like comment from the previous one. You mean like putting up a fight explicit and see who likes it the most? Yeah, I'm open to that. Whatever, any suggestions you might have. All right, my guesses are Turkey doesn't want to lose money on AJ Fury, which means he wants to make a profit. Yep. Well, all he's done is lose money for the last 7 or 8 years, mate. So Netflix might also want TKO/Zuffa to promote the fight because of their relationships with Nick Khan. I think so, mate. I think all that's been ticked off. I mean, I know we probably don't know the whole story, but I would think, judging by what Eddie Hearn's saying at the moment, I think they just want some more money to compensate for the extra tax that Joshua is going to get hit with by having the fight in the States. Now, as I said this morning as well, I would have thought, even if it's up to $5 or $10 million, I would wear it and just let it go because of the amount of money that they've made out of Turkey and the Saudis in the last few years. So, but yeah, you might be right there, mate. But I think if that was the case, Eddie would have mentioned all this sort of stuff. And the way Eddie has spoken has been purely about this extra money that they want to cater for the tax. And he said the contracts have been fully signed off and everything else. So, and he's made no mention of the broadcaster or anything like that. So, I've got a feeling it just comes down to getting a few extra million for the troubles, mate. How does it feel to go to your first Zuffa show in September? I couldn't give a shit who promotes it explicit. Couldn't care less, mate. Or it better be good. Because Dana White said they're the best, so it better be good. Let's just say that. No, I think, where is it? T-Mobile Arena. I don't think, if you hadn't have said that, mate, I probably wouldn't have even known it was a Zuffa event. I probably just would have went along, and I don't really take that much notice, mate. I'm there for the fights and not really stressed about it. But good point. Thank you. It'll be great to go to a Zuffa show in September. Confusing comment, but could Turkey wanting Dana to have Zuffa fights on the card make Eddie want Sealer to be the main promoter for AJ Fury, even though they own 6% of Zuffa? Who knows, mate? Look, we all know there's a lot of egos involved and agendas involved with this whole thing. So many fingers in the pie. Eddie doesn't want Dana or Zuffa anywhere near the promotion. I don't know. I'm sure there's been some concessions made by all parties, but yeah, who knows what's going on behind closed doors explicit. I would think that Turkey would want to get Eddie and Dana together so we could bang their heads together, I would think, because it hasn't been an easy process, has it? What do we got there? You mentioned Tim's next fight to be Lara or Denzel. This is Bentley. One problem with Denzel is Eddie's trying to get Denzel to fight George Liddard, Eddie's fighter. Yeah, I did see that explicit. Yeah, look, I'm just sort of throwing it out there, mate. Maybe it's a question I could have asked Pete before when I mentioned about Nikita with Josh Kelly. I still don't see how that adds up time-wise. Maybe this isn't the same boat, but yeah, you could be bet that Eddie's not going to be doing Tim Tszyu any favours. You're right. And he's going to want to get his fighters against each other, and Liddard had a good win, so he might be in line. Who knows? Drew, I think Nikita is a very legitimate chance versus Josh Kelly, but I honestly think Boots and Fundora put him through the wood chipper, with all due respect to Nikita. Yeah, well, again, we touched on that before, Drew, and again, there's no disrespect to Nikita. Who knows? He might surprise us, but I just see Boots would just I think he would do a number on Nikita. Unfortunately, Fundora maybe not so much, because Fundora, if you look at him, he's not the most graceful guy. He's not the most skilled guy. He's not the biggest puncher. He's just a guy with just massive advantages, and now he's learned how to use those advantages to the best of his abilities, and that's what's making it so. And that's where the improvement has come from. I think it's this fact he's like, well, okay, rather than stand in the pocket with these guys and take away all of my advantages and try and punch with a puncher, now I will use my attributes, like I will be the aggressor, but I will keep them at arm's distance. It's a great game plan, really, and it's going to work against pretty much anybody. Guys like Boots and maybe Ortiz and those types of guys are going to probably find a way to time him coming in, like Mendoza did. That was also, when you think about 3 or 4 years ago as well. So he's really just got it down pat at the moment, Fundora. Take center ring, push the guys back, but keep them at arm's length, and it's almost impossible to get past him. And Boots, on the other hand, I think he would, I think I'm with you, would slice and dice Nikita, unfortunately, at this stage anyway. Shadow Boxer, the boxing ring you have at your house, what's something like that set you back? Good question, Shadow Boxer. I think that might have been about $4,000 from memory, $3,500 to $4,000. It's a 5-meter ring. I actually we cut it down to a 4-meter ring because it just didn't fit. We used to have it at our gym, so it was great. Then we cut it down by a meter so it would fit in the gym out the back. But really easy to put together, mate. It's got no canvas or anything obviously on it. It's a frame basically. So you put it together in half an hour. So you bolt it all together. The frame, it's got some braces on the end of it as well. The ring posts, it's got the ropes. You just put all that together. It all goes together, as I said, in half an hour, mate. Very, very easy, and it's a very, very good, sturdy ring. So, and if you wanted to, you could probably elevate it. You could probably put a floor on it, put some canvas on it if you wanted to. But I've got another ring shadow box that I've actually got in storage. I used to have in my old gym. That was a lot more expensive. That was closer to 10, but that's a proper, 5x5 ring with proper, like it's up, it's elevated, it's got canvas, it's got everything on it. So, and that was a lot more expensive. But that one, mate, I think it was about $3,500 to $4,000. And I think the company, if you look at it, it's a SMAI, however you pronounce that, SMAI, SMAI. Look on their website and they sell them on there, but a lot better. All right, Ryan, I've seen Nikita getting the stoppage. I've seen huge improvements in his last fight. Tough fight. I think Nikita's ready to step up to the next phase or level. I'm with you, Ryan, and I think he gets your job done on Wednesday. Hearns, I have to stop bagging BoxRec. Okay, about the rankings. When Nikita fought Diaz, WBO had him at number 8. BoxRec had him at 125. Who was closer? Yeah, good question. Tony Harrison is BoxRec 57. Nikita is 10. It's all in the rank. I'll keep bagging them, Hearns, as long as they keep doing stupid things like they do with the rankings. I'm going to criticize them. I'm going to, just as an example, I might just quickly have a look here if it lets me get verified here. No, it's waiting to respond. I'll go back to it. Just look at the pound for pound rankings, mate, and you'll see what I'm talking about, especially with the Aussies. It's not letting me do it at the moment. But yeah, look, no ranking system's perfect. And you're right about Diaz at number 8 with the WBO. That was absolute bullshit. But yeah, I think BoxRec overall for me, mate, no good. No good. Richard, Ben Damon's a bit of a stirrer at times, to be honest. Yeah, he can be, Richard. Yep, he can be. Yep, Samuel, looks like Jamal versus Cohen still going ahead in USA. Yeah, thanks for that. I obviously didn't see that when I was speaking to Peter. So it looks like it might be, what did he say, on the Fundora card, October 17th at the, was it T-Mobile or MGM? I'm not sure. But that is awesome. And that's great from No Limit to get that done. Now, no doubt Jamal probably would have just wanted to move on and wanted nothing to do with Cohen. He wouldn't have probably rated him in the first place. But the fact that No Limit have obviously worked hard to get Cohen on that card, I think that's fantastic that they've managed to get him on there. All right, so I'm just going to put in, where are we? And I'm not trying to make a point here. Who was it? Someone asked it before. Hearns. But you talk about algorithms and all that sort of stuff. Let's have a look. Actually, I'm curious to see who they've got at the moment. All right, this is the Australian pound for pound. Okay. Jai Pattaya, number 1. All right. Liam Paro, number 2. Now we're cooking. Tim Tszyu, number 3. Sam Goodman, number 4. Nikita at number 5. I'm not sure I should even mention this one. Michael Zarafa at number 6. Liam Wilson at 7. You're going to love the next one. John Manu at number 8. Andrew Maloney at number 9. Ben Marnie, number 10 in the pound for pound. So Ben Marnie and John Manu are above Jason Maloney, Paul Awakuso, Justice Huni. Who else is in there? They're probably the big ones, aren't they? That is Teramawana. So there you go. So I would just, excuse me if I would take offence at John Manu, and who else did I say? Ben Marnie being in front of Jason Maloney, I would have thought, and Justice Huni. So there you go. Just wondering, you talk about with the algorithms and all this sort of stuff, how could even this algorithm have John Manu in front of Andrew Maloney, who's just won the world championship. And the guy he fought was ranked quite high as well. And John Manu is above Andrew Maloney. That's why I don't rate BoxRec there, Hearns. I know you're only joking there, or I think you're joking, but that's why I don't rate BoxRec, mate. All right, Ali. It isn't on the YouTube reporters. The boxers should realise they are growing the sport. Without them, the paydays will be even less. Fighters not just paid for the rounds, also they have to promote. Yeah, it's a good point, Ali. But yeah, I think you can have it both ways, Ali. You could be nice and polite and just say to the guys that are there, hey, as I said earlier, appreciate you coming, apologies, but look, I've got to get out of here at the moment, and the YouTubers just going to have to wait. I know they all do a great job. They all spend a lot of their own time and money and all that sort of stuff to get to the events. They deserve better. But this is end of the day, this is the sport they're in, and they have to make sure they're primed for Wednesday night. Not just that. I mean, maybe someone like Glenn Jennings could have said they could see that Nikita's not in the mood and not really handling the questions that well, and just say, "Come on, we'll get you out of here. Sorry, guys. We'll we might do it tomorrow after the weigh-in if he's around." Something like that. Yes, I know they're fighters, Glenn, but they're also human beings. Okay, as I said before, let's see how up and about you are. If you're tired, hungry, thirsty, let's just see when you've had a hard day at work and you come home and someone wants to stick a microphone in your face and you just don't feel like it. I know they're fighters, and let's not forget that Nikita always gives, and all the fighters give so much of themselves to, whether it be main event or the YouTubers or wherever it might be. They give themselves so much, especially the Zoo boys, who get the more publicity than anybody. And this is just one occasion where Nikita's been a little bit sarcastic. So I think we're maybe reading a little bit too much into it. I would think that he is like 99% of his interviews have been great, and what he said, a little quirky, but he's always given his time and fulfilled his commitments. It's a one-off. I think we give him a little bit of an out on that one. Ali says they are professional fighters, which means doing more than the rounds in the ring on the night. That's why Ryan Garcia and Conor Ben get the money they do. They sell the fights and gather interest. I get that, Ali, but they do it. They do it over a certain period, and I think it goes back to what I've been saying for a while. Is that I just think the commitments on the guys is too much. It's just way too much, and it's probably inevitable that this happens. And Pete said before, even with Jai, he's always a little bit irritable though, Jai. I've seen him in action. But again, I'll say, I mean, it's once in, a lot of interviews that Nikita's done, and he's always been so professional and courteous and giving with his time. So I think we give him an out on this one. And I wouldn't be surprised, Ali, at some stage if Ryan and Conor both say no more. Okay, we've done enough building this fight up, no more. All right. Joe, just my 2 cents, and no offense intended. I don't buy a fight because of a YouTuber. I get sick of hearing the same questions. I like Nikita answering the way he is. Well, there you go. There you go, Joe. There's the opposite side. You're not too stressed about not offending me, by the way, Joe, because even though I'm a YouTuber, as far as having a YouTube channel, I'm not one of those guys that goes up and sticks a microphone in the face. So I don't take offense at all, mate. But I'm with you. I do get a little tired of hearing the same questions, and I've said it a few times, I get a little bit sick of having the grand arrivals and then an interview, and then the press conference and then interviews, and then the weigh-in and then interviews. I get a little bit tired of that. But you know what? I just don't watch them. A lot of the YouTube interviews on there, when the same guy gets interviewed by 6 different people, I watch one and I don't bother watching any others. So we've all got a choice. There's no limit to the amount of shit shows you can sell for $70 because there is another one. Can't wait to see you all whinging in after it. Yeah, that's Big Bang. Yeah, look, I got no dramas paying the money on Wednesday night. Well, I won't be watching it, of course, on KO or main event. I'll be actually at the fight. But if I was here, I would have no dramas paying $70 for this show at all. It's a good quality card. It really is. And the main event It's not like they've flown over another import that's going to just get bowled over, and the undercard's full of imports when they're about to get bowled over as well. No, this is not Terra Milana and Michael Zarafa from a couple of weeks ago, even though I know that was free. This card is a very good, solid, strong card. Now, I know there'll be a few of you say, well, it's a good domestic card and it should be free. Again, these fights cost money, and $70 isn't a lot, in my opinion, to spend on a really good night of fights. Especially when I'll say it again, you spend $70 on a slab of beer these days. So for a good night of fights, I think it's money well spent. But anyway, Glenn, I don't remember Crawford doing much publicity. It's not for everyone. Yeah, good call, Glenn. Yep, perfect. Spot on. Yep. Some of them just say, nope, not doing it. And even someone like a Floyd Mayweather Jr. back in the day, he would do a lot of media, but he would do it with selected people. And I know this is before probably the days of the YouTubers and all that turning up and all the rest of it, but he was very selective on who he did interviews with. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, because I think you shouldn't just go with the ones that talk positively about you. You should be open to everybody. But I've got a feeling that most of even those top line guys who seem to give a lot of their time and give a lot of interviews to different people, even those guys and girls would probably have someone saying, nope, we aren't going to do this one or that one. Is that Glenn? I like Nikita. I think he's funny, and I like seeing a cranky fighter occasionally. Yep. Yeah, Nikita could have been a stand-up comedian. He probably could. That might be a good career for him after he's finished there, Richard. Big Bang asking how many sheep is Marnie going to be counting? Good question. I don't think he gets knocked out, Big Bang. I think, as I said earlier, I think that if Nikita stops him, it'll be by the corner or the referee. That's just my opinion anyway. All right, Drew disagrees with Joe. Nikita might be a big fish over here, but he isn't exactly Floyd or Manny overseas. Without the media, he doesn't get the push to further his career. Yeah, Drew, you're right to that extent as well. But again, I just think we're all overacting a little bit. I really do. And I think even Ben today would have just shrugged his shoulders. This is Ben Damon. It's just one of those things. And it's not like he was, well, maybe you could say he was rude, but it wasn't like he was like angry or whatever. Yeah, he's a little bit of a smart ass, a little bit sarcastic, but he still did it with a smile. So, and it wasn't exactly the greatest question. I just think it was a wrong question at the right time. So again, I think we give him a bit of a mulligan on it and just move on. I just think it's a big overreaction. Shadow Boxer, how's training camp? What's it like to headline the card? What's a victory mean to you? What do you see in your opponent? Don't forget the other one, Shadow. What can we expect to see on Wednesday night? That's the last question they always gets asked. But look, as I said earlier, then maybe it's just ask the most obvious questions so they're the easiest for the fighters to answer and not having to elaborate too much. Or you could just do what Errol Spence did and just say yes, no, or even Rolly Ramiro yesterday, who didn't even answer the questions at all. Just thank God and walked out of the ring. And at was it the press conference or the weigh-in? He didn't say anything. He just stood there and shadow boxed. I mean, and Teofimo Lopez, remember when he fought Shakur, when they did the weigh-in, he actually, after he weighed in, he didn't go to the interview. He just went to the side of the ring and knelt down, and everyone had to follow him over to the side of the stage. So, yeah, pretty crazy stuff. I think along the line, all great fighters or any fighter in general that's at this level would have experienced something like this. But I just, again, don't see, what all the fuss is about. All right, Joe. Cheers to Drew. I don't mind a different opinion. I know they need the media, but I feel they keep asking the same stuff over and over. Less is more for me, but all good. Yeah, I'm with you there, Joe. Drew, I'm glad you brought up Manny, who was hardly a big talker in any way. It was his fights that caught attention. Yeah. It was funny with Manny though, wasn't it, Glenn? He'd just smile and a couple little one-liners, and that was all you got from Manny. But you're right, he got all his love and attention and all his followers just by the way he fought. Just an unbelievable fighter. Asbot says, I think the issue is just too much media commitments in fight week. They always ask the same questions, but yeah, maybe let the fighters chill a bit more in the final week. I've been saying it for a while, Asbot. Fight week, do nothing except maybe if it's a Saturday night fight or a Friday night fight, maybe do the grand arrivals if that's what they want to do. And then maybe they've got the weigh in obviously, and then maybe that's about it. And then for the rest of the week, just let everyone else do the talking for them. I don't know. Richard, this is Pete Bedell. Can't be serious. Fundora is elite, but wishful thinking. Yes. Nikita's fought no one. He would be lucky to lay a hand on Kelly. Yeah, well, that's what I said, Ado. I mean, everyone sort of talks about Josh Kelly being the one to go for. Josh Kelly's a very, very good fighter. And, geez, look what he did against Barkram Murtazaliev, who was a killer, and outboxed him. Closed his fight, but I thought Kelly won, and he fought a great fight. So he's slick, very quick, good on his feet. He'd be a handful. Don't worry about that. Glenn says, anyone else here think Nikita is better than Tim? I've thought that for a couple of years. Good question, Glenn. It's not really... Oh, it is a question. Too early to tell, Glenn. I know I can't believe I'm saying that when he's 28 years of age, but we just haven't seen him fight anyone of note. Tim, we know exactly what we're getting from Tim. We've seen him in against all types of opponents at all different levels. We know exactly what type of fighter he is and how good he is. Nikita, unfortunately, we just don't know. So I'm going to hold judgment on that there, Glenn. Richard says, I'm a massive rap for Nikita and love his style. Big Bang might have a bit more power, but Tim's got more skill. I think that Tim, let's just say at the same stage, at 28 years of age. Now, I've got a feeling when Tim was 28, got a feeling he'd just beaten Mendoza. That's the quality you got to put against each other. And if that's the way you want to go, then Tim, I think, is a much better fighter at the same age. But I think the current fighter we have right now, I just think Tim definitely looks shot worn. I think he looks past his best. And I suppose Nikita has the ability to go past him. But again, we'll see. Johnny Durag. Fighters like Barrios and Cambozo, for how mediocre they are, man, have they found themselves in a lot of big main events. Yeah, they have. Well, Barrios, I think it's a bit harsh. There's been some people say he's the worst world champion of all time and all this sort of stuff, although there was a few saying that about Rolly Romero yesterday. But in Cambosis, yeah. Well, I think George has gotten so much out of his career that maybe he wasn't really entitled to get, but no one sells the fight better than George Cambosis. And if you think about it, I mean, look at those big fights. Of course, the first, the Teofimo Lopez fight, that in turn got him the Haney fight. It was written in the contract to get the second fight. He found himself ranked at number 1 with the IBF after beating Maxie Hughes, hence the Vasily Lomachenko fight. I think pretty much talked his way into the Richardson-Hitchens fight. But he's managed to get the absolute best out of himself when it comes to matchups. And what the question, I suppose, is you could ask is, what other Australian fighters have the caliber of fighters on the record that matches George Cambosis? I would say maybe Jeff Horn, Manny Pacquiao, Terence Crawford, and Tim Tszyu's on there as well. On there, but Crawford and Pacquiao, just two massive names. But George has got Lomachenko, Haney, Hitchens, Lopez. It's a pretty good resume. It really is. Obviously, Jeff Fennick fought Nelson and all the rest of them back in the day. But, geez, I would challenge anyone to really put out there that they could match Cambosis' record. Troy Waters would probably go close. Terry Norris and Simon Brown and Felix Trinidad, Gianfranco Rossi. Yes, some of our fighters have fought some great fighters over the years. What do you got there, Glenn? Not trying to start an argument. I'm seriously interested. Nikita would have stopped Tim's last 3 opponents. Yeah. Pete lost him with their Benavides pick. Yeah. What do we got here? Drew. I respectfully disagree. Benavides has an amazing engine, volume game, and has robust power. I hope I'm wrong, but I think he has too much talent and mongrel for Jai. Look, I'll agree, Drew. I at this stage, I would have David Benavidez in front of Jai, just slightly. Whether it's 51-49 or 52-48, very, very close, but I've got Benavidez in front at the moment. And Pete, I thought, made some pretty good points about Jai Pataya. Has been rocked, hasn't looked impressive in some of those fights. I think talent-wise, one versus the other, I think Jai's got more talent than Benavidez. But we probably haven't seen, well, I suppose the Breeders' fight, you could probably say in Jai's defence as far as quality of opposition goes. But I just think Benavidez this stage for me is just 3 or 4% in front either way. But that's just my opinion. Asbot, I think Tim at his best is more methodical and accurate, just has better shot selection and ring IQ. But that being said, Nikita is definitely looking, and I wouldn't rule out, I'm assuming looking good, and wouldn't rule out Nikita going further. I'm in the Tim camp there, Asbot. I think I just, with the current situation at 154, I can't see Nikita winning a world title. I'm just being honest. I just can't see him beating any of those world champions at the moment. And as I've said, even though Josh Kelly seems to be the one they're all targeting, geez, that would still be a massive fight for Nikita to win. So again, I'm a massive fan of Nikita. I just don't see him being able to win a title at 154 with those current champions there. If Jai wins, he has to get on that microphone and call out Benavidez from every rooftop. Enough of being polite and towing the Zuffa company line. I'm with you there, Drew. And there was talk over the weekend that David Benavidez's dad actually sent a text to Jai asking for contact details, or this is a week or so ago, whatever. It was revealed on the weekend. So will we see Jai? That was about fighting Jai and Cinco de Mayo next year, which is the first week of May. So will we see Jai get in there and Jai, whoever, Jai Pataya, I hope we get him in there and he calls Benavidez out and tells the world he wants to fight and let's get it done. Glenn says Benavidez is a weight bully. The only guy he's fought approaching his size was Zerto, a giant punching bag. The way he stands upright while throwing is made for Jai. I think he gets knocked out inside 7. I hope you're right there, Glenn. Thanks, Max. Nice one. Hosco. You didn't call me Hosco tonight. I was a little disappointed in that. 8-0. What's the story with Vegas Larfield? Seems like his career's never really progressed. Well, he's back soon, I reckon. 8-0. He fought on the Liam Paro undercard and had a good win there. Actually, is he back? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's got anything scheduled at this stage. Yes, he has. He's fighting. That's right. I knew that was the case. Of course, he's fighting on Wednesday night. He's fighting Jubat Buhat this week. So I forgot all about that. That's a long card, isn't it? So thanks, Simon. Appreciate it, mate. I'll let you guys keep talking about that. Joe, I personally don't want to see Nikita go for a title yet. I'd like to see him work his way through the top 30. I don't want to see him fight Thurman or Harrison either, but increase the competition. Well, I think at 28 years of age, Joe, they're going to have to fast track him to some extent. If he was 3 or 4 years younger, I get what you're saying there. Let him have another 6, 7, even 8 fights before he's ready to fight for a title. But 28 years of age, mate, they're going to have to fast track him just slightly. And I just see Thurman or Harrison as the guy. I think he definitely beats Harrison. Thurman would still be a bit of work for him. I think, again, he fell into the Fundora sort of trap, didn't he, Thurman? But I think he's way past his best, but I think he would still give Nikita some issues. But I still see it as a good fight for Nikita to see whether he's there or not. Because if he can't beat the likes of Thurman or Harrison, well, obviously he shouldn't be in the ring with a Fundora or Boots or Josh Kelly. Ryan, Eddie Hearn is a little butthurt at the moment. These bloody promoters will do their best to not put a fight on for the fans, or it happens too late. Fury versus AJ, fans pay the bills, no viewers, no business, They do sometimes make it about themselves, don't they, Ryan, the promoters, and they're all guilty of it. They all sort of posture too much and puff the chest out and everything else. I think in this case, look, Eddie's acting for Anthony Joshua, so he's got to do what's best for Anthony Joshua. But I think as well as that, I think he also wants to let everyone know that he's a big part of the promotion and he's Joshua's guy. And just because he's not an official promoter doesn't mean he's not in the involvement of it all. So, yeah, I think he's just trying to maybe posture a little bit. But let's just get the fight done. Ryan says, hopefully Zuffa takes over. Best versus best. Well, we'll see. Richard says, Ryan, that Fury AJ fight needs to be at Wembley, not New York. It needs to be, well, it should be at Wembley, Richard, but it ain't going to be, mate. I wouldn't have thought. There'll be definitely some money changing hands, and you'd be guaranteed the fight's going to be at Madison Square Garden. Glenn, Zuffa sucks hard. You've got to be kidding, Ryan. Joe, I noticed, about Cohen today with his speech. Yeah, I think he's always been a bit laconic, hasn't he, Joe? He's always been a little bit that way when he speaks. I mean, people say that about Liam Wilson as well. I only saw bits and pieces of Cohen's interview today, but yeah, there has been a few people have said the same. So let's hope it's not the case. Hearn is doing it for the fans. Why the hell should the Fury AJ fight be in America for Zuffa? Yeah, good call, Glenn. That's one that we haven't actually sort of addressed in this whole thing is, well, maybe Eddie deserves a pat on the back. He wants it for the British fans. He's a British promoter. AJ's a British fighter. Fury's a British fighter. And maybe he's just fighting to have the fight in the UK. And don't forget too, by the way, that as Eddie has stated a million times, the contract they signed was for the UK, which is why I think he's getting, as someone said before, butthurt, because everyone's sort of coming at him saying, why doesn't he just change it and fight in America? Well, he's saying, well, hang on, we signed the fight in the UK and we want to do it for the British fans. So, yeah, it's a good point there, Glenn, for sure. Drew says, Plant, Andrade, Gvozdyk, Yard, and Zerto make for a pretty robust resume. This is Benavides. It's not his fault Canelo and a select few have avoided him. Throw in, what was his body? No, David Lemieux as well, and a couple of others he's fought as well. He hasn't got the best resume, Benavides, but I think he's still a very, very good fighter. Where are we? All right. Ryan says, we are agreed, but are we going to wait until they're in a retirement home before they fight? That's the problem with boxing. Zuffa is coming whether we like it or not. Yeah, no doubt, Ryan, it's coming. Or it's here. But I've still got my doubts about how big it will be. I think it will succeed in maybe a certain way, but this whole thing about, it seems to be Dana's sort of whole mantra, I suppose, that they're just going to come and wipe out all the promoters and wipe out all the sanctioning bodies, and it's just going to be a UFC system. And I think that's why the attitude has changed from Zuffa and Dana White, because they realise they just can't do it. I think they expected to do it. I think they thought the boxing was so broken that they would just come in, put this thing up, put it into action, start the engine up, and the rest would look after itself. All the fighters would be coming over, the sanctioning bodies would fall over, the promoters would throw up their hands and say, well, that's it for us, I suppose. They didn't count on the fighters saying, no, we don't like what happened to Jai Pataya. We want to fight with the traditional belt, so we're going to stay where we are for the time being. And all the other promoters banding together and going to DAZN and forming an alliance over there, and DAZN protecting its assets as well by getting all the promoters together. And I just don't think they counted on the resistance that they're getting at the moment. So I'll say it again, I'm still for the traditional guys. I do not really want to see Zuffa succeed, if I'm being honest. In one way, I do like it as far as the attitudes 50-50 fights go, but I just don't like having one organisation pretty much dominate the sport. I think we're going to see what happens in the UFC, where a lot of unhappy fighters over there. And it's all just so sort of, what do you call it, vanilla? Is that the word they use? It's just so streamlined. And it's good in some ways, but I like having different promoters who all do different things and having different broadcast deals and fighting for different belts. And I just like it better than having one sort of organisation run the whole thing. I just don't like it. They've done a great job of the UFC, by the way. I just don't want that system in boxing. I just don't want it. What do we got here? This is Benavides. He dwarfed all those fighters by 20 plus pounds by the time he got in the ring, except for Zerto, the same Zerto that weighed 205 on fight night against Bivol, and we know how that went. Yep, I'm with you there, Glenn. Yeah, Zerto was disappointing, wasn't he? Really disappointing. What have we got here? All right, Drew. Again, he still needs to make weight at some point. This is Benavides. Despite the hydration, and people forget how much that takes out of bigger guys. Respectfully disagree. Always fun to debate. Yeah, that's cool. It's good that Drew and Glenn are having a chat in the chat there and doing it respectfully. What have we got here? Richard, I've said before that should have been held while they're both in the prime. This is Fury and Joshua and holding belts. Both parties stuffed up, and now we're here, but spot on. Warts. It reminds me a lot of the Pacquiao-Mayweather sort of circus, doesn't it? I mean, it finally happened, and look what a disappointment that was. And look, the thing is, what we've got to remember, guys, is that the fights a few weeks ago, I mean, Tyson Fury, he looked shocking. He looked like just I won't say a shell of himself. He still had a bit of movement, a bit of snap, but I don't think he looked impressive at all. And then Anthony Joshua, I mean, geez, I don't know what they were thinking about giving Anthony Joshua a fight before fighting Fury. I mean, he looked completely shot. And to get dropped twice by Pringa, who's a club fighter at best, was a real worrying sign. But the thing is, I suppose, when they're in there, they're both at a similar stage in their careers. It's going to be an interesting fight. I don't think it'll be an overly exciting fight. I think you'll see sort of Joshua sort of coming forward, Fury up on his toes, sort of flicking out the jab, trying to ping Joshua from long range. But before the Pringa fight, I would have 100% said that Joshua wins the fight. But after what I saw against Pringa, I just don't know. Having said that, Fury's not the type of guy that's going to go over there, you wouldn't have thought, and knock Joshua down early. It's not like Dubois or Pringa, where he got caught with big shots early. Fury's not a big puncher at all, so I don't think he'd be worried that way. But it's just got Mayweather Pacquiao vibes to it, where it's just going to be a 12-round snore fest, and one will win, and everyone will shrug their shoulders and go, "What the hell were we so fussed about that fight for?" All right, Drew. Zuffa to me is simply a vehicle for Saudi tourism. Turkey bought in Dana to stop losing money while eventually turning Saudi into a boxing hub. I don't want the Saudi boxing hub though, Drew. I don't want it. That's the one thing that I don't like about the whole Turkey Al Sheikh thing. All the fights in Saudi, I'm sorry, there's been some good cards over there, but they've all lacked atmosphere. They've lacked the vibe. They've lacked the build-up. They've lacked a lot of everything. A lot of them have been good cards on paper, and good on Turkey for spending a lot of money on getting him put on. But again, where are we 6 or 7 years later? I don't see us that far down the track. And I think the last couple of years especially, the cards have been pretty ordinary. So apart from the Canelo Crawford one, and that was in the States, it was just great to get back to a big fight in the United States, even though the undercard was shit. What have we got? I've got a few minutes to go. What's that? Nicotine. Zuffa is still waiting for the Ali Act review to be passed. Yeah, well, I don't think they'll be waiting too long. I think they had, was it September? Or was it maybe the end of the year? I can't wait, I can't remember. But yeah, they had to wait for that to pass. And then will boxing change for the better or worse? The endless fun that might get squeezed, and the Sheik may not have the cash to pay silly pays for silly fights, though. Yeah, that's the question, Nick and team, is that what happens when the money dries up or gets pulled back? I mean, all of a sudden, I don't think Turkey Al Sheikh's going to be having his hand kissed at every fight night, is he? You watch him drop off quicker than anything if that happens. It'll be yesterday's news, very, very quick, and all those friends that he thought he had aren't his friends anymore, I can guarantee you. And I've just got a feeling that at the moment, I said earlier that Oscar and Eddie and everyone, even though they're still working in with Turkey, they're still doing their own things. And I think all of them are setting the platform up so that if it does go under, then they're going to be sustainable going forward. They're not putting all their eggs in the basket, where at the start, it was like, hey, Turkey, let me kneel down and kiss your ring. How many times do you want me to kiss it, sort of thing. And Turkey this and His Excellency and all the rest of it. And now I think a lot of them are just setting themselves up for that time where maybe the platform does get pulled and they've got to stand on their own 2 feet. Zuffa has separate income, $100 million a year just from Paramount. Yeah, that's not going to last forever though either. Unlike Liv, died with no TV contract, so it should be able to continue for now. I think they might have learnt a little bit from the whole Liv thing there, Nicotine, but I still think long term, is Paramount going to be able to put in $100 million a year? It's a lot of money. A lot of money. They've got one promotional firm. Yeah, I'm not so sure. Ryan, Dana has a multi-billion-dollar business. He probably can't wait to take full control of Zuffa. At the end of the day, I'm a combat sports fan. Just want to see best versus best, prime versus prime. Yeah, well, you got a point there, Ryan. But yeah, I don't know. He's got so much on his plate with the UFC. I would think, let's just say in 5 years' time, if he hasn't made real inroads, I'm just not so sure that he's going to want to hang around. But maybe I'll be wrong. Yeah, Glenn, good point. What makes you think Zuffa will produce best versus best? Because they said so. Yeah, well, so far, we've had 50-50 fights, but not necessarily best versus best. They haven't really got the best. They've got Jai at cruiserweight. They've got Shakur Stevenson. They've got Conor Benn. Yeehaw. That's not the best. They've got the best cruiserweight, or arguably the best cruiserweight. Definitely got the best 140-pounder, and that's about it. So, yeah, I'm with you there, Glenn. Who says they've got the best? They certainly haven't. All right, Jefferson, you disagree. $70 for an Aussie domestic card is ridiculous. Yeah, well, okay. That's your call. Glenn, what does UFC model produce? Low pay and bland fights. UFC only works because it's a monopoly and it's slowly dying. Well said, Glenn, and I agree. I watched the show a couple of weeks ago. The bad was it Paddy the Baddie or whatever on that show, and I thought all the fights were ordinary. His fight was okay, but I just think they've been ordinary, and I just don't see the same hysteria around UFC as what we've seen maybe 5 or 6 years ago. Definitely since Ronda and Conor sort of went to the wayside, I think it's really struggled to get momentum since then. Jefferson, Kelly loses that anywhere else outside of England. He was averaging 13 punches around second half of the fight. I've got to disagree, Jefferson. I thought Kelly won that fight, man. I don't think Barkram did anywhere near enough to win the fight, and especially when he got knocked down, didn't he? From memory, he did, didn't he? Did he? I'm sure he did. Yeah, no, or was it Kelly got knocked down? Whatever it was, I just thought that Josh Kelly won the fight, man. I thought he won 7 rounds to 5. And he might have, was that averaging 13 punches around? Jeez, that's not a lot. But was Barkram Murtazali, what was he averaging? 18? Wasn't that much more, mate, I didn't think. What else we got there? Jefferson, Liam Paro, better record. Yeah. Yeah, no, well, better record, but I wouldn't have thought better list of opponents. Lewis Crocker and Richardson, Hitchens and Subriel Matias, great opponents, but I'm not so sure they measure up to Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko and Teofimo Lopez, but better results for sure there. Glenn says, what does Zuffa offer a fighter? A dead-end street, in my opinion. Just ask Jai. It's literally given Benavides a reason to duck him. He literally said that. Good points, Glenn. I like it. I do like Ryan's comments there as well. Daniel, curious to know what type of questions everyone here would ask the fighters. Well, good question there, Daniel. I would have thought just, again, some simple questions to maybe Nikita would have been, all right, what is he, 13 or 14 and 0? What without giving too much away, what do you got to do to get the win against Ben Marnie on Wednesday night? Something along those lines to make him actually think and not just give an obvious answer, to make him think, well, I've got to do this and got to do that, or maybe along the lines of, all right, well, what strengths do you see in Ben Marnie, and what strengths does he have, and what do you think you need to do to combat them? Something like that. Now, he's not going to give you too much, but at least it's going to allow him to think of an answer, not just say, well, am I confident? Well, no, I'm not confident. To have a smart-ass answer, to actually make him think and come up with some sort of answer. I know it's along the lines of a stock standard question, but again, it makes him just think about it. To say, what does Ben do any differently to some of the other fighters you fought, and what do you need to do Wednesday night to beat him? Something like that, anyway. Can we move on from George? He sucks more than Canelo. You don't really like a lot of people, do you, Glenn? Pro Bucks is $5 a month. Paramount with UFC and Zuffa is $12 a month, and DAZN Ultimate is $50 a month for every pay-per-view. Look, I know a lot of you will disagree. I actually think the Ultimate package is great. I do. For what you pay for it per month. I know a lot of not a lot, but some of the pay-per-views I've had might not constitute a big pay-per-view. I get that, but for me, they've more than delivered. Like yesterday, I've got it at the pub, and I put it on and watched Tio and Roller Ramiro, and didn't have to fork out any extra money. If I had got it on main event or bought it separately on DAZN, it would cost me $50. So I think it's about $40 a month from memory, or not even that, $35 a month or $40 a month, whatever it is, if you pay for the year. So, geez, that's one pay-per-view a month that you'd be paying, plus you get all the other events. I think it's great value for money. Again, I'm also the same guy that thinks paying $70 for a domestic show is okay, but a lot of you disagree, and that's cool. What else have we got here? So I'm right on 9 o'clock at the moment. Jefferson, taxes are too high in New York to have the fight there. That's what they're going on about, Jefferson. That's why they want more money. Ryan says Tyson Fury berated Eddie because Tyson is happy to fight in the US. Yeah, he is. He doesn't really. Glenn says he's a money-hungry grub. Okay, no worries. I think I'll get through this and that'll be about it. I remember Eddie saying he would wash Turkey's car for him if he asked. Times have definitely changed. The Turkey honeymoon is over and is turned into a loveless marriage. That's a great way to describe it there, Drew. It is a loveless marriage. There's no hugs. Well, not that there wasn't really any hugs and all that before, was there? But yeah, there's not the same attraction, it seems, of what there was at the start. So what's that there? Cambosis got beat by all those big names. Para lost a split decision to Hitchens while Cambo got dominated and stopped. Yeah, well, what I'm saying, Jefferson, is that I'm not saying that Cambosis has got a better resume than Paro. I'm just saying the list of his opponents is better than Liam Paro's. Again, Devin Haney twice, George Cambosis, Richardson, Hitchens. What did I say? Lomachenko, Haney, Hitchens. I mean, there's some pretty big names there. Teofimo Lopez. I just think those list of opponents are better on paper than what Liam Paro's is, even though Liam Paro does have a better resume as far as beating some of those guys. So that's where I see the difference. But anyway. That's my point. All those subscriptions together are still cheaper than one Aussie domestic. Yeah, but you've still got to have different subscriptions all over the place there, Jefferson. And you've still got to pay for pay-per-views if you haven't got the Ultimate package. So in Australia, you don't have to pay a monthly fee. You just got to pay for the pay-per-view. I know you got to have Foxtel, but you don't have to pay a subscription. Or KO you do, but it's not a lot. And then you pay for the pay-per-views on top of that. Maybe they'll bring in something similar, the main event in KO, where you pay a subscription and you get your pay-per-views. I don't know how it'll all work, but end of the day, you get what you pay for. But I'll let you guys argue that in the chat. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week. I hope you enjoyed the interview with Peter Bedell. Have a good week. Enjoy the fights on Wednesday night, and we'll catch you next week on Talking Boxing.